It's EGFH Week 5, returning with our final game of the week. It's Overwatch to round things out, and Eli Whitney Technical High School taking on the Mark T. Sheehan High School Titans. I'm Time Light, joined alongside me is Nerds Corner. We moved from Valorant to Overwatch. Kind of the same game, just one's a little more tactical than the other. I'm kidding. I promise I kid. But Nerds, Mark T. Sheehan and Eli Whitney, any opening thoughts or takes on these teams?
Sheehan Titans. They're leading the pack currently, living up to their namesake. They are number one in the standings, going up against Eli Whitney, who is going to be third in the standings. And it's interesting. So to cross-reference some previous games against the Huntington Blue Devils, Eli Whitney lost. And they lost 0-3, a clean sweep by the Blue Devils. Whereas Sheehan Titans were able to do 3-1. The Blue Devils only taking one game off of them. This is, it's an interesting stat line to say, and it's important to note, but it's not doom for Eli Whitney just yet. There is some room to work with. They are third for a reason. They played out 4, won 2, and lost 2. So they're 2-2 right now in their wins to losses. So they do have some fight in them. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm curious as to how they're going to play out and what they're going to do.
And on the flip side of that, of course, Mark T. Sheehan, they've recorded 4 games. 3 of them have actually been played. All have technically been wins. It's 3 by wins of playing, 1 by win via forfeit. Let's take a look at our map, see what our map pool brings us this week. Now, it is a rotating map pool. Week 5 is the exact same as week 2 for all of you curious. So we will see Lijiang, Paraiso, New Queen Street, Shambali Monastery, and Nepal. But given our 2 teams' records, nerds, I'm gonna make a bold claim here.
Oh,
purely based off of numbers, I don't think that we will see Shambali Monastery.
you don't think so? You think it's going to be a 3-0 sweep?
I do.
Wow. Well, that is a hard guess. I would have to kind of agree. Unfortunately, it is a tough battle. If they can win Lijiang, I think that there is a fighting chance for the Eli Whitney Owls. But at the same time, it's difficult, especially going up against such a strong team. In general, though, it's exciting to see. Like, both of these teams are pretty close in the standings. It isn't that far off. And when you ever see a match this close in the standings, it's gotta be one where people are fighting. They're fighting to stay alive, fighting to stay up, and they're fighting to win.
Well, we're looking at the rest of the season saying there isn't a whole lot left. This, as we mentioned, is week 5. There is still week 6, 7, 8, and I believe 9 to play. So we are just under 2/3 the way through, if you really look at it, depending on how you want to throw around your statistics or fractions. But just over half the way through. Quite literally, is 4.5 is half of 9. Mark T. Sheehan looking good, yet to lose. And I gotta say, I think they're relatively favored in this matchup.
I would have to agree. It's one of those things that if you play a lot of this game, you have a really clean record, 3 wins played out. You have the experience as well as the victories to prove that you are worthy of being at the top of that leaderboard. You're worthy. As the barriers drop, we got a little bit of time. They're going to be going in, looking at the compositions. It's good to see this Kiriko being obviously one of the newer heroes in the map pool as everyone dives in. The mirror comps of the Reinhardt also interesting.
The Metro brought on the board, though, here for Eli Whitney, and the dive just does not work. Mr. Billy and Pyro both go off the map. I think Pyro pinned himself off, while Mr. Billy decided to swift step over to them and try and Suzu it back. I'm not sure how that would happen, but Eli Whitney will cap first.
Well, this is looking good for them. Like I mentioned, early Eli. Ooh, if Eli can win out early, it could be a very good start for them, especially because they're going up against the Titans. They're going up against one of the top teams here. So we already start seeing trades go out.
Hit scan doubled up here for Mark T. Sheehan. The Cassidy taken care of fairly early, though. Better player still just trying to pepper in damage, but that shield from the Reinhardt, very well managed thus far in a lot of these fights, so not a whole lot of damage allowed to be peppered through, much less if it could be. They're still worried about a lot of these turrets, and they will eventually find them after a decent bit of damage done. The aggression has to be there. Mark T. Sheehan has to press the go button, and now they will. Very well-timed grenade there from Jan, as they will look to aggress, but an immediate trade. Road player taken care of, and there's the shatter. The open opening onto at least 2, but the pin back the other way. Tsunami still is able to find 2 more. Double pin and a double kill will lead even more for Eli Whitney.
I think this combination is so interesting. You have the double hit scan versus the turrets and just the spam fire from Junkrat. You have this kind of dichotomy between two play styles, and I think Eli Whitney kind of read into this a little bit. They know that Mark T. Sheehan, they have some advantages here. They have that aim, they have that brain, so they're playing off those turrets. They're playing off their utility a lot more, and because of that, they're winning out. It's causing them to win. You don't necessarily need to have good aim. Sometimes you could just like hide away, spam, and get those chokes.
Double Kitsune Rush used, Tsunami a double, one with the Fire Strike, but an immediate return. It's the Reinhardt's finding every kill thus far. The problem is Pyro significantly lower, a perfectly timed sound barrier. Better player can only find one, and Tsunami has so much health to work with. It's a 1v2, a DPS up against a tank and the support. The Bionade even misses, and Better Player cannot do all that much. I don't even know if they touched it. May not matter. Jan from behind does not touch. There won't even be overtime.
Wow.
Eli Whitney, 100-0.
100-0.
First round.
Okay, so maybe our predictions were a touch
No.
overzealous. No?
I said it was going to be
No?
a sweep. I didn't specify a team.
Oh, what an interesting change of pace. That would be crazy to see. Toppling the Titans, I mean, the joke has to be made as it's such an iconic one, but if they could do it, that would be an upset. Not only for the standings, it'll boost them entirely forward, but it also will prove that, hey, even if your stats aren't that good, you can still have a good strategy going up against a better team. That being said, near the end, an amazing shatter coming out to deny them entry onto point. They can't cap it, they can't touch it, can't get them into overtime to have an attempt to resurrect themselves in this game. And because that wins out, we're gonna see some ball action as well in this current match from our lowly team, the underdogs, coming up with some interesting strategies, and it works out.
Oh, and it works.
It works.
I don't know how in the world that works, but sure, I suppose. Wrecking Ball comes through. I don't think they even have the Iceberg available. I don't know how in the world Jan is not dead. Where the heck that health came from, the world may never find out. But still, Mark T. Sheehan are honestly just being upset a lot of these fights.
And I think the change of pace is working out for them.
Okay.
Rogue Slayer finds one. I was going to say they instantly changed up their composition because they knew Mark T. Sheehan is going to come out guns blazing and ready to change up the pace. Again, with that Orisa, it's going to work out. There's the slam, and it doesn't work.
Not at all, but fortunately they do still find Tsunami. Bemby, a victim as well. Pretty good start here for Mark T. Sheehan. This may be their first cap of the series, and it's been a little bit longer than I think they would have liked. They still have to deal with the Lucio that's just dashing around the point. Finally they do. Jade Moon's taken care of, and that should finally be the cap. Wavy Patty, very lucky to be alive, almost finding Better Player. Now is finding Better Player. It was Wavy Patty and Bemby who did get the main assist, but Wavy Patty still playing very risky around the point. Very lucky to be alive. I don't think they will be for much longer.
I think that ice wall as well up on Tsunami really helped isolate them and gave them that win. Taking out the ball early allowed them to cap point easily. There's no tank to mitigate that damage. There's the barrage as it goes out, but doesn't find anyone.
Not at all, and the Blizzard used doesn't find anything either. Pyro does find one with the Whirlwind, but not much to work with off the back of it. Highbud, sitting on point, does not have their Swift Step, but it may not matter. Tsunami caught out, that Javelin misses, but Better Player will not. I suppose he's just the better player.
I think that's a beautiful name as they're still trying to hold on to this point. It's looking a sweep in a different direction.
At this point, at least. They still have not capped, by the way. In all this time, Eli Whitney has held the point because of the mines used by Tsunami and the fact they've just stagnantly died in seemingly every single fight. Wavy Patty taken out in thin air, but Mr. Billy, there goes your primary heals, at least from the Moira. And Eli Whitney have a man advantage at this point. Pyro diving, but a perfectly timed sound barrier again as Jade Moon gets every single one in they require. The spray down as they're frozen to death. Finally, a full fight victory after a minute and 40 seconds, and Mark T. Sheehan will cap.
what an insane battle near the end there. There's still 2 ultimates online for this retake of point, but at the end of the day, they have a hard road against them. 3 ults on the other side as well. That Nano really powerful, especially on an Orisa, powering them up and getting them to take as much damage as they can. But also the minefield goes out. It's great for zoning off that tank.
Another times on this Blizzard, sound barrier not available this time around, especially with that visor up on the board. It only finds one, surprisingly enough. Jade Moon trying their best impression of the Matrix, but Tsunami propels themselves into the floor, and it's a return of missiles as the Helix rockets actually do more damage than that barrage from up above. Another fight win for Mark Tichy, and this one much more neat and tight.
I mean, it was an interesting ball play indeed, switching off to the Zarya to counter, hopefully to a degree. But that is going to be fun, especially against all the damage that they're outputting. I don't think that that's a bad play. Mr. Billy close to that coalescence as well. Something of note as the retake is going to start. They just need to cap that point, push it off through overtime, and hopefully win out. Mark T. Sheehan, on the other hand, they do have a harder road to climb as the fight begins.
Perfect wall set up there, isolating the fight, making sure Zarya has no business being involved. The Suzu not available, and a double with the Terra Surge. Translocation is there as Bemby will get out alive, but only barely as we reach final fight.
That Terra Surge near the end worked out so well in their favor, grabbing 2 players, better player being the better DPS in this situation. The hacks are not going off. It's going to be 90 seconds. It's going to be the last team fight here for the Owls. Owls Varsity needing to win out, Titans needing to stay alive. Both teams are getting ready as point reaches 99 contested.
They touch. The question is, do they stay alive? Jade Moon will not get another sound barrier. They will not even get another life. High Bud stuck out. Swift step onto the point, but they have no other utility. Another visor available here for better player, who has built up 4 ultimates in this round alone. It's down to Tsunami just to stall, but with all 5 players looking in their general direction, the coalescence, and most importantly, I think, the assault rifle of better players, Soldier 76, they're no longer for this world.
Every single player has an assist on Tsunami there near the end as it gets 1-1. I think both of our predictions are not going to be correct. This is a very close matchup, 1-3, and it shows both these teams are here to fight. I think it's going to be a lot tighter than we expected. Time to light. That being said, I think that it was kind of set in stone. The coalescence was there for Mr. Billy, and worst case scenario, they could have popped that. The healing and the damage combined can definitely sweep any players trying to tap points and keep them in overtime.
The concerning part of that round for Mark T. Sheehan was the fact they took forever and a day just to actually cap the point back. It seemingly was the fact they had the point capture at 30%, but they proceeded for the next minute and change to just stall out the fight. We'll see if that goes the same way for them this time around. Here's the dive. Zarya right off the bat, isolated again and stuck out in the middle, but they do have support from the side this time around. Not as easily will they be taken out as they were in fights prior. They're still just looking to dive though. They've run out of bubbles, however, so their protection is gone entirely. Fortunately, their support line is still very much on the board, and they are dealing a significant amount more damage than their Pyro counterpart on that Orisa. Spray from the side. Bemby has made the switch onto the Sojourn, but only to an early grave.
And that is going to be 2 players down. It's not looking so hot for the Owls right now. The Zarya switch works out, but it's also just 1 switch.
It's not doing enough, and as you can see, again, target prioritization with only 1 player left alive. A fairly quick fight victory after the point cap. It is a point cap, but not by much.
It didn't take that long this time. Their composition staying the same. Slight changes here for the Owls as well. I don't know if those changes are really working out. I do think that the Tracer is a very powerful one to get in and out of sticky situations for obvious reasons of that utility. But at the same time, if you're going to be going up against a player like Pyro with all the support and that Fortify online, it's going to be really difficult to take them down solo. You're going to need to have the rest of your team come in as the team fight commences and everyone's getting ready to fight. Getting ready to go in there.
Up above, trying to do their Randy Orton slithering up. Watch out! Watch out! Watch out! They somehow make it out alive, only barely. The Coalescence will keep them alive as well. But a perfect Graviton Surge finds 2, but a return. The Blizzard and Terra Surge combination will find 4 returning. The Coalescence Prior coming into full effect. And somehow Mark T. Sheehan win the fight.
I was gonna say underrated ultimate of the statement right there. The Coalescence not only dealing damage, but also keeping everyone alive amidst the Q battle and amidst the chaos. It allowed them to stay up in it. And that is going to be a switch this time, going for a Winston, an interesting choice. The goal of Winston, obviously, to go into the backline and take out the squishies, take out Zarya's supports. Let's see if it can work out. An interesting choice, especially because of the ability for Zarya to bubble the teammates.
Problem is, they just don't have enough damage output on a swift basis. That Pulse Cannon just does not do enough. You can see Wavy Patty from behind, very lucky to be alive. There's the dive again from the Winston. Somehow Wavy Patty, by the way, is still on the board. Winston from behind, still up, but it may not matter. There's a spray, perfect javelin throw, and even though Tsunami is close, they can't do anything about it. They don't have any support whatsoever. Even playing inside of their bubble, there just is not enough damage done, and they can stall as much as they like. It'll just be overtime on the board here for Eli Whitney, who seemingly had the entire game in their hands, but have run out of time in their favor. Disruptor shot misses, Pyro still on the board, as they have support from Mr. Billy behind, and most importantly, their Ana is now dead. High Bud finds better player, and that may very well be the fight that we're looking for as Eli Whitney cap back.
Jade Moon's switch obviously working out for them in their favor, the boops to get them off the site, but on top of that, Bemby has that ultimate online and available. Railguns are there, and Overclock might be popped here, especially because it is an intense battle. They're trying to stay alive and keep them off point.
Very early Primal. It does find better player, but that should create enough space for Eli Whitney. That should be a worthwhile ultimate. As you can see, Mark T. Sheehan should have to back away here.
They don't.
Maybe not.
Pushes in.
Terra Surge, but it doesn't find a kill this time. It does enough damage onto Jade Moon where they can be finished off later on. Yan finds a follow-up onto Bemby, and the DPS line here for Eli Whitney is gone. It is just Tsunami and a High Bud, that Kiriko who's now dead, and the Winston left alone. Limited cooldowns because of that Kitsune rush, but it will not matter. Another touch will be there. Jade Moon will be absolutely powered down as quickly as they entered into the fight. And there's that Pfizer from behind. Wavy Patty walled off, and with no way onto the point, Mark T. Sheehan go from losing 100-0 to absolutely returning with a vengeance and cleaning out Lijiang to 1.
They just needed to warm up, get into it, and get ready. That switch from Reinhardt to, obviously Orisa, it seemed to work out in their favor as we get to look at the play of the game coming out from the Owls. At the end of the day, though, the Titans, they played so well in that final match, he's able to grab and do so much damage. Just to note some points in that final battle, the switch to Orisa allowing them a lot of space and a lot of room to work with, that fortify, the spin, and even the toothpick to pin players and push them out of position. They played really well, getting on the aggressive as soon as they needed to when they wanted to make space. And even in that final battle, when they were getting pushed up against the wall, they lost Pyro. The DPS were able to come out, not only because of the hit scan, but also because of their ability to just raw aim, raw brain, and do so much damage that it gave another tactical visor to better player. He pushed up and just swept them, cleaning things up near the end. It was an insane battle, to say the least.
Soldier 76 diff. That's all I've got to say. I'm a soldier man, so that's what I like to go to. I played a couple games yesterday, and the term "where is my healing" was a consistent statement that came from me. But
is that why you play soldier? So you have that self.
I have my own healing. I have a self healing station. I'm not trusting support lines in low gold. It's just not happening. But luckily, better player did have a whole lot of support. You could see when they were dropped in on, somehow surviving more than that 6 seconds that they just swung back and forth with the blinks back and forth. It looked like Blink 182. How much health they lost yet stayed on the board. Terrible joke. But you looked good if you're Mark T. Sheehan. First round, not the best. Second round could have improved. I think cleaner fights would have been the name of the game for them. But third point was about as clean as things could have been. You lost just one fight, the first of which, by the way, was, well, not really a fight loss. That's why I wasn't really counting it as a fight loss. But when you look at it on the Mark T. Sheehan side, they cleaned up significantly more than I thought they would have, especially after round 1. And they were able to clean out Eli Whitney when they were taking the fights towards the end.
I mean, I'm excited to see what we're gonna play out next. I mean, at the end of the day, they didn't let it get to them. The mental was strong for the teams. We're gonna be going to Pariso with the same sides for both of these teams.
Yeah, that means Eli Whitney will start off on the defensive side. It is their right to do so. They get the choice, considering they lost map number 1. You get side selection. I prefer to start on that defensive side. I know some teams depends on the team. I know Mark T. Sheehan actually is a fan of the attack. We've seen them a couple weeks, but they lose
Hmm.
very little, so it may not matter. I'm a
So
little surprised that Eli Whitney coming into this will choose the defensive side because honestly, playing a Mark T. Sheehan strengths and they get to determine the pace of the game to open things up. I'm not liking their chances.
I mean, you've had some more experience with them, Time to Light, so I'm obviously curious. You said that Mark T. Sheehan favors attack. What do you know what kind of composition they run?
In your face. No, I'm kidding. They
Ah,
run. They usually run
I
the
mean,
same
dive
compositions
in
for
your
a lot of these
face.
maps. No, I was going more haha L in your face, more of the joking one. But what they like to do is they just like to play consistent. So
Mhm.
the compositions that we saw back on Lijiang, there wasn't much of a change throughout the entirety of that map.
No.
You saw maybe the switch from the Cassidy on towards the May. We saw the Reinhardt to the ball slash mainly onto the Orisa, which stuck for the longer period of time. And
Ball was Eli Whitney.
oh, yeah, it was Tsunami. But
Hmm.
they were sticking with the Orisa more often than not. And if they
Yes.
can keep that consistency, especially on Paraiso, where you can play really any tank you like, I prefer more Sigma, especially considering high ground at
Think
the first
Sigma?
point, but it's really up to your preference.
I personally think Sigma's great, especially with the utility that they provide, being able to pin players down. Also, that ultimate, being able to take everyone up and have a little melody play out, hopefully getting yourself a decent amount of
Universe!
kills. The universe. And that being said, I mean, it is you know, we said it was going to be a sweep. Eli Whitney came out swinging, ironically enough, with Reinhardt, and they did a really good job of making sure that it wasn't just a sweep, one-sided favor affair into the Titans' favor. So I really want to see how they play out in Pariso. It is a change of pace. They got to decide the siding. They got to pick kind of how they want to play this out. So hopefully that gives them an edge and an advantage here. So I mean, we'll see.
The flexibility has to be there for Eli Whitney. It is basically hold first point, hold third point, or bust. If they drop in second point, I don't think they have that attacking flexibility that Mark T. Sheehan has to really match them in that phase. If they make it to the third point, that's when I'm going to really start being concerned if I'm on the
Hmm.
Eli Whitney side. But Mark T. Sheehan shouldn't have anything to be concerned about. As we've talked about, they have yet to lose a series. They have yet to lose a
Oh,
hybrid map at that, and they're
oh,
looking pretty good. The extent of maps, by the way, that they've lost was actually week 2 Esperanza, so it wasn't
really?
like actually this map pool. So that's what I'm a little surprised about, to see
Interesting.
whether Eli Whitney will try and take them to Paraiso on the defensive side or not.
Well, we'll have to see in the games. I'm pretty sure we're getting into them or getting ready, but at the same time, I mean, um, oh, we just got word of some interesting news. They are not ready. Someone is uh, going to do some stuff. But I mean, regardless, regardless of the situation, I think that this is going to be a change.
Well, the change, especially for Mark T. Sheehan, has to be making sure they're a little bit more comfortable in a lot of their fights. You could see, especially in first and second point back on Lijiang, they were not as comfortable. You could see better player having to flex a little bit more around the rest of the team and play separate, which has ended up getting them killed more often than not. And when they fixed that, obviously they turned it into more fight victories, but you can't consistently be worrying about having to separate from your team if you want to be comfortable in a fight, because target prioritization, especially in the 5v5 meta, has to be there. And I don't think we saw it as much from Eli Whitney later on, nor did we see it from RT Sheehan early. So that seems to be the determinant.
I I think that they just need to warm up to a degree as well. The Sheehan Titans. I'm listen, and I say this because we gotta you gotta double triple down. If there's going to be a sweep in any direction, we said that the Titans might sweep the Owls, and so sometimes we go back on our words. Sometimes we double triple down. I think in this situation, they have what it takes to completely just keep their dominance and assert it. The Owls do have a mountain to climb against them. That being said, we're still waiting on the players and the games. I'm not 100% sure as to what's going on in that situation, but
It looks like everybody's back. So
Oh,
fortunately,
we're
things
getting in
are
there.
back underway. We do have
We're
some
getting
other
in
news
there.
in terms of substitutions. Half is
Oh.
in for Bemi, and Jade Moon is being subbed out for Junior Icon Ghost, who you've seen over the last couple weeks. We definitely saw them last week as well. The conversation for Junior Icon Ghost may be a flex away from the Lucio or a more mobile Lucio, so keep that in mind if we see that here on Paraíso. I think Jade Moon played about as well as they could have back in map number 1. They had the most perfectly timed sound barriers that I had seen. Maybe mainly the reason that they won first point on Lijiang was because of how consistently they were in the background, just holding down long angles. Albeit it's Lucio, so not doing as much in terms of damage, but you were able to keep the team up, keep the team mobile, and most
Get some
importantly,
ticks.
have those sound barriers.
You get some ticks on that health bar, lower it piece by piece, and yeah, maybe get an assist here and there. But at the end of the day, it's just those sound barriers, like you were saying. They're probably the most important thing for Lucio's kit, other than the boops. You have a lot of capabilities here, as well as taxing, of course. Very powerful piece of utility to get your team 2-point faster.
You know, they say in life 3 things are inevitable: death, taxes, and Mark T. Sheehan winning a series.
Oh.
The question is, will Eli Whitney try and change the inevitability, make sure Thanos can not make an appearance? Or will Mark T. Sheehan just keep up with consistency? Name of the game for Eli Whitney is keep it within 2 points. If you are forced onto 3rd point, straight up, you are not beating Mark T. Sheehan. Wilson Central tried, and Wilson Central failed. That, by the way, is the only team that has beat them, and that was on New Queen Street, like I said, back in week number 2. That is the only map they have dropped thus far in 4 weeks, this being the 5th. And they're still looking about as clean as ever.
And now I want to talk about this Doom play here. I mean, it's definitely going to be fast, get them onto point and give them some mobility, but it's an interesting choice nonetheless, especially going up against the Sigma. Like I said, there's the high ground capabilities to get into the backline and do some damage, but you just don't have a lot of health, and you're killed by the support. Out of all the things, getting eliminated by the Zenyatta, I mean, at the end of the day, he does have that volley, but still.
I think he only had 1 HP by the time he had faced the Zenyatta. That's the main point. You had Wavy Patty looking straight at you. You would half unloading 2 full barrels into you. And most importantly, that sticky grenade did the casual 130 damage it loves to do. Jan from behind, the tank conversation. I was talking about the Sigma. A way to casually hold that high ground is playing the Sigma. The other way to clear it is playing on that Doomfist. They've decided rather now for that Orisa, though. Pyro, that Javelin's a little bit too late, and a good flexibility there from Tsunami will keep the team alive, but an even better shot from Yan will drop Icon Ghost. The volley is there as they get dropped with the grenade as well. A clean start, especially for half, as they open things up, holding that high ground.
I think that BAP is also super important there. Immortality allowing them to stay alive a lot longer than they should have in that team fight that we literally just saw seconds ago. And the switch, Pyro having to go from Doom to Orisa, you know, it ticks down that ult just a touch, but at the same time, it was done fast enough and decisively enough to keep them in this game and alive. Pyro on the back burner, but he's still able to stay alive there.
Unfortunately, Tsunami's not. Lack of support's costing him because of the over-focus on the DPS. Wavy Patty lucky to be alive. That Helix rocket set misses just barely, but Pyro's Javelin won't. What a snipe from the tank. And there's first point. Done and dusted, and oh my goodness, Icon Ghost barely alive as they will make it out with their life. But oh, look at this, a follow-up is there. Better player, however, will not survive. Half hits another sticky, and they just cannot miss those.
I mean, he's trying to get some space for them. I understand the plays. You want to get good positioning here, especially for the point to move forward to get that payload. But at the same time, you're going so far out that you get yourself into a trap. Just an unfortunate situation. That being said, better player does have that visor up and online, and they're going for a gnarly flank. If they can get this, it would be an interesting set of circumstances here.
They have Nano Visor. That's what they're going to use.
Oh,
There's
wow.
the Nano. Here's the Visor. It already melts Wavy Patty. A follow-up there on the High Bud
cool.
who's taken care of. A third found just the same. And Better Player will look to just sweep it up off the back. There's 4.
He's looking
The
for
5th
that
is
melee.
technically stolen away, but it's not going to matter. Better Player has found the play of the game, and we haven't even finished second point in the first round.
I mean, he's trying to live up to his name. He's gotta listen. If you're named Better Player, you clearly have to go in there thinking you're better, and it just shows.
What is
in that
Wavy Patty
situation. He's bouncing around, having a fun time. They're all kind of lined up for this Orisa and Terra Surge.
There's
Breaks
Terra
them
Surge.
out.
There's the Immortality Field falling. Somehow, both of the
Ooh.
supports are still alive. Icon Ghost was kept up in the fight by High Bud, who continually rallied those
Ooh,
pills in, but
team
it doesn't
wipe.
matter.
I think that Terra Surge also worked out so well for them. Obviously not netting themselves any eliminations, but just making players push out of position and allowing for Better Player and Jan to take a lot of space and do a lot of damage, netting them a full team wipe. So in general, that ultimate's still working out. More of an assistance than an actual damage. That Deadeye available for Cassidy. Again, it's an interesting ultimate, especially, I mean, being argued if it's good or if it's bad, but at the same time, it is there and ready. Same thing with Bob. Looking at the flank, I assumed that they were going to do some crazy stuff with it.
Oh, what a javelin! He just got Ajax off his gravitic flux. The javelin just stunned him out of it. So no grab for you, denying both players on their death, and they're just gonna fully cap. There's nothing they can do. Death Blossom from in front. Tsunami has such low HP, it's not gonna matter. And a clean fight victory. Mark T. Sheehan
Wow.
in almost as quickly as you can complete Paraiso. This is similar to last week when we saw a 4-minute time bank on King's Row.
I was about to say, did they even stop the payload in any capacity?
Barely.
I feel
First
like the
round
payload,
only.
I
For
feel
first
like the
point.
payload wasn't ever stalled in most situations. Like you said, that first point was the only time that it happened, and then after that, they kind of switched their composition, stuck with it, and it just worked. But now, on the offensive, Eli Whitney, they have a little bit, a lot a bit harder, especially because you're going up against 347. Even if you can get to that third point, you're gonna be going at a disadvantage on the flip side when things reset and when you gotta try one more time. We see Tsunami on the ball again. I love seeing some of that wrecking ball action. It's fun, it's interesting, especially if you have a really strong player on it. That being said, the Nano is still up for both of these teams. We did see how Better Player did with that Nano. That boost for Ana sometimes, I just think to myself, it's a menace. When you see that with literally any other ultimate, it's spooky on the server.
Mark T. Sheehan keeping that consistency. They picked up Pyro going from the Doomfist on towards the Orisa fairly early on in the first point, and they will stick with that as they start on the defensive side.
I think this is the same, basically the same composition they had earlier. Jan going from Reaper to Hanzo instead.
Oh, and already finding an opening duel. High Bud taken care of. This switch off that Kiriko and allowing Icon Ghost to pick it up has cost them their life apparently early on. There is a return though. Wavy Patty from long range has taken out the Better Player, so at least there is that kill back the other way. Fairly good dynamite, doesn't fully land, and they can drop back, but the problem is Tsunami doesn't have an easy way out, and they're quickly taken care of. Nice shot, by the way, off Yan with that recon.
And I mean, it was a clean shot as well. I was gonna say, this Hanzo play that we love to see, it's working out so well for them. They're doing a good job keeping players out of position, and they have the high ground here on the first point, so they're just gonna try and maintain it and keep them away. The ball action, hopefully to counter that high ground positioning. It doesn't seem to work out as well as expected.
The one vulnerability at this point here for Mark T. Sheehan is the backline going under and around. Fairly good sleep dart, it lands, and good target prioritization. Without the rest of the team and even the general vicinity, what is the ball to do but to die? The largest hitbox of cylindrical or spherical objects that you've seen in this game, and very little ability to get out alive. Better Player even able to nearly touch spawn doors, and that, oh, that's a little bit of an overextension. Half takes care of him.
Unfortunate set of circumstances, but I did want to mention better player. I mean, they overextend just a touch. They still have Yan over there, and Tsunami has dived, I believe, 2 or 3 times. They have unfortunately not won out a single one of their dives that they pushed in. They pushed in a little bit without their team, and it worked in some situations. But Yan, he's just like, okay, you might have worked here, you might have gotten some space, but we're instantly going to take that back from you. You guys can't have it.
What do you call barrel stuffing with a bow and arrow? Arrow stuffing?
Arrow
Quiver stuffing?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes it feels like a meme is there for the taking. It just tree trunks being thrown at you. A change of pace. We see the diva coming out, a switch. I mean, if they could charge up that ultimate, it's really powerful for clearing potential, but at the same time, it's more the defense matrix that I'm curious about how they're going to use, especially going up against Pyro and Yan. Just munching on some of those bullets. Yum, yum, yum.
They're going to try and get down and below. The problem is Pyro on the board with his Terra Surge, dragging him straight into the Dragon Strike, and they find a double off the back of it. Wavy Patty finds only one in return, but where's the help for Tsunami? It's another situation of where is my supports? And the problem is, for Tsunami, they're already in the grave.
And I mean, with a minute left on the clock, regardless of the situation, this has been a huge stall for the Titans. The defense matrix is doing a decent amount of work here as well. That switch working out in their favor just a touch, keeping them alive on their dives. But at the same time, it might keep them alive for longer. But
so that happened on
a little bit. I'm assuming a misplay.
Not on my bingo card. I think they just wanted to get out.
They just wanted to leave in that situation. At the end of the day, I was going to say it keeps them alive for longer, but in this situation, they fall to their own demise. A little bit of peril in paradise. I mean, that being said, it is really... Oh, peril in Pariso. My brain was not fast enough for that.
I like that one. That's a good one.
I know my brain was just not fast enough to capitalize in some situations, and I feel like that's kind of what's happening here. It's difficult to capitalize on this play. They dive in, Tsunami can take the space, but they're not able to push them off the high ground, and it's just giving such good positioning to the Titans.
Well, final fight territory now. Will they even touch? That's the real question. They can't seem to get past this high ground. There's Kitsune Rush, maybe some speed, but Pyro just absolutely demolishes Icon Ghost, who evaporates into thin air. There will still be a touch. A good sleep onto Pyro will allow them to encroach on the point at a bare minimum for a longer period of time, but half is just peppered down. Again, enough damage is done. There's the Javelin, there's the Whirlwind, and there is the round, and subsequently the map. Bob will not even be able to touch, as the Javelin will deny it. You shall not, says Gandalf. I mean, Pyro.
Bob can't do something in this situation, does nothing, as it's going to be a clean 0-0 for the Owls. I mean, play of the game going to Yan here with this masterful play. I mean, I think it works out for them 100%, getting a beautiful 3-piece here, taking out 2 of the supports. And Cassidy's dual potential is really strong. There's a lot of capabilities that he has, especially with the buff and change in his kit. But at the same time, that dual potential is more in reference to 1v1ing supports like Kiriko or Bap, who have a lot of firepower, maybe even Moira, and also maybe a lot of the DPS characters more specifically, not necessarily the tanks. You can't really 1v1 a tank. You do need to dive and focus on them, especially with good team play and coordination. And I think that, again, they just played out of position. Tsunami pushed in a lot as Wrecking Ball, took a lot of space, but none of that space was capitalized on. They had no way and capability to maintain that space. Just like a lurker in any tactical FPS like CS or Val, you want to make sure you're keeping the space that you make. And in this situation, it's almost mirrored. You want to keep that space so you can keep that point, play on, and it just didn't happen. And because of that, they fell, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it cost them a lot more often than it probably should have. You had Tsunami creating a decent bit of space, but I can distinctly remember 3 separate scenarios where Tsunami died and nobody's even then in the general vicinity to do damage or help them, or in some cases heal them. Wrecking Ball can only heal themselves so much with the shield they built up off of that extra damage that they do, but it's not going to matter. In a word, Robbed was a better player in terms of play of the game. They basically found a 5k with the Nanovisor. Favorite ultimate combination.
Yeah, I mean,
second and third is Dragon Strike.
I was gonna say that play near the end was still really powerful though. Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
I
it
mean,
found its retake, but
my analytical brain is just thinking, oh my gosh, he took out both of the supports. There's no heals for at least, there's no heals, not even because they need to respawn, but they also can't get onto point. And because of that, the respawns are all out of sync and out of order. They're going to need to waste a bit more time so they can dive on point together. It's just a huge impact play. But I do think that the cool tac visor nano, it was such a cool play. It's just there's the nerd side and then there's the nerd side, right? I really thought it was cool. I was like, oh, that's neat. Nano, rush in there. You're better. You're the better player. And unfortunately, that didn't win out. That being said, I'm not sure. I think we have a little bit of a break here because some of the players are rethinking some stuff. They're trying to regroup, rethink as they don't want a 3-0 sweep here.
Yep, we're gonna send things to a break, and when we come back, it is the only map that Mark T. Sheehan has lost thus far in the EGFH. Will that continue to be the case, or will they bring their record back to 1-1? We'll find out when we head to Toronto after the break. New Queen Street, our third map of play for this series, the following, and the one that I'm not on, our third. The question is it Mark T. Sheehan's map loss again? The only other time they've played this is map 2, as our 3-week cycle of map pools suggests, but they lost it the last time they played it, at least in EGFH play. I don't know what they do in scrims, I don't know what they do in other leagues, but the only time they've played it in official play here, they've taken a big fat L.
Well, I mean, we'll just have to see and get into it. That being said, did you ever see the Owls varsity roster play this map?
I don't think so. I can check. Give me a second.
A touch unfortunate, but it would be interesting to see if we can find out a little bit more about them and see if they can win out. That being said, if they win this, we are gonna go to Shambhala Monastery if they can. And that'll take us to Nepal near the end. If we see it, it'll be crazy to see. That being said, again, it's all about the games. We're gonna have to find out. It is one of the newer game modes as well, push. So I mean, love it or hate it, you gotta play it.
Yep. To answer your question, they were not on stream back in week 2. Eli Whitney was not. So we will head into our third map of New Queen Street, completely unknowing. Now the question
Oh,
is for Eli Whitney, can they flex? I think the ability for them to do so is there. They've won series based off of push before, but can they keep that consistency? That's a real question.
I mean, I feel like push is one of those game modes that is a touch, I would say one-sided. Even like, once you get into it, you kind of get into it. Once you have a lot of momentum, you have that snowball rolling, you really have a mountain to climb to stop it, because not only do you need to stop the snowball and the ultimates that are being built up, the players that are all left alive and working together and feeling hot and ready, but you also have to make sure that you are playing at that same level even at the downturn. Ooh,
Seems
Ramatra
like
from Pyro.
Eli Whitney are going to try and keep that same-ish level of consistency. Tsunami will hold that wrecking ball. I'm a little surprised about, especially on a push map, to state the very least. But the problem I see for them is the support line. I don't know if Moira Lucio is the combo that you really need.
I think it's an interesting combo, but at the same time, I also think it is a touch weak on the healing. I mean, Moira is really powerful, but a lot of players really, I mean, once you've used it all up, you have to like worry about doing damage here. The opening kill is not given to Ball.
No, not at all. It actually goes the way of Wavy Patty. A little bit of an over-aggression bit here for Tsunami. A good anti will mean they have no healing for the next few seconds, but they still want to aggress. They don't care about the lack of healing. They just want to hold W, or in this case, right-click, as they will pile drive their way into the DPS line and barely make it out alive.
Okay, well, they're able to grab some healing. I was going to say, getting those chokes really powerful.
Spray is there. Tsunami is able to melee down, and a boop off the side. Very few times do you see kills off the side of New Queen Street. But
they boof
better
off
player
the
guys
boof.
out the back.
They boofed off the boof, the better player, and I was just gonna say, this is some new ball action. The tech is working out so well in their favor.
They're just aggressing and holding W at this point.
Go ahead.
Pyro is switching things up. They will head onto the Orisa. They need to win this fight. They cannot allow more space to be taken here from Eli Whitney. The dive from behind being set up. Better player has switched off of that Soldier 76 for the first time in a very long time. There's the minefield from behind, but it doesn't create as much space as I think they would have liked. It does not find as much as they probably could have. And the grapple misses just the same. They just do not have enough damage output, but they still are able to take out Rogue Slayer. It's not enough for the rest of the squad, though, I say, as Jade Moon still somehow finds a kill.
This is some great action from Ball, but I think that the change for better player works out so well. Ball getting super close into the faces of the team for the Titans. They're getting up in there, and you're going to be playing a close range character, and Reaper, it works out. The combination working in their favor.
Dive again. Better player trying to hold W. They do not have the Wraith form online. They need to be able to get out alive, and they just do not have the cooldowns. Tsunami able to barrel stuff them with 2 barrels, actually, and a little bit of a melee to clean things out. Jade Moon's taken care of, though. Nice shots from Yan. They're not done either. Sticky grenade lands, and a follow-up onto Hive Bud. That's a double for them. Looking for a third, as behind is the Sombra, but they will make it out alive just barely at that.
And I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Pyro switching off to Orisa, and better players switching to the, well, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it with the Orisa. But if it ain't broke, I mean, maybe you do want to fix it. He switched off to the Reaper. That worked out so well for them, especially because of the close range duels. I keep repeating myself. There's 4 ultimates online for the Titans, and I think that they're going to use it soon, especially here on one of the final fights. Not necessarily this early, but definitely to get themselves a team kill.
Oh, good target prioritization again here for Mark T. Sheehan, and they will take the lead off the back of it. Good hack, lands onto Yan, increased damage output there for Eli Whitney, but not enough to find a kill off the back of it. And Bemby does not have their translocator set. Lucky to be alive at this point, but it may not matter. There's the Deadeye, there's the kill onto Hive Bud, and finally you see a Deadeye kill. More often than not, really just to reload your weapon.
I was about to say, I haven't seen a Deadeye kill in a while. That being said, they do take the first point in this battle. They started off hot for the Owls varsity side, but it just didn't work out. Death's Blossom gets interrupted by a kill. Did get one on Jade Moon, though.
I don't know how in the world they decided to use the Death Blossom that far forward. There's a fairly well-timed Terra Surge, but an even better EMP, and that pyro enough for them to fall in that backline. Over-aggression costing Sheehan, and over-usage of ultimates at this point. A switch to the Torbjorn for better player after they fall, but, well, the rest of the squad falls, as Sheehan very quickly taken care of.
And I mean, that... they didn't change too much, but this aggression from the Owls is working out so well for them. The change on Torb gets instantly taken down as Yan gets the trade.
Social distance themselves from this ball, and playing the Torb I think is the correct decision. The problem is not having that continuous damage output that they were relying on the Reaper. Tsunami over aggresses, fairly low HP for them. They are still getting healed, but even more damage is being output. There are the mines, even better sleep, but he's still being kept alive.
And I mean, keeping that ball alive is dangerous. He's now in the backline doing some damage.
Coalescence, enough healing to negate that damage though. Again, the shields increasing their ability to stay alive long term. But again, it just will not matter. There's a magnetic grenade and there's the kill. You don't have to worry about it. You just know it's gonna find it.
I don't know. How do you feel about that change? I personally really enjoy it. Makes that
when I'm Cassidy, I don't know how to use it. It's bad. When I'm against Cassidy, I always dive to it. It's bad. But from a spectator perspective, it's good.
Oh, from a spectator perspective, I think it's phenomenal, especially the way Yan has used it so far, netting themselves both space and eliminations in combination.
Aggression here from Yan again. Ramatra switch. First time we will see the new tank on the board here for Eli Whitney. We saw it in spawn doors, but not actually played there for Sheehan. Yan very lucky to be alive in the backline and will not be. And Tsunami there with that annihilation, able to cleanly find the kill on the better player. Pyro not long for this world either, but a 60-meter lead, good enough for Sheehan.
I mean, that is going to be a lot of pressure. They changed the spawns going to the other side. And I mean, this change onto Ramatra, I think it's going to be a really good one as they get right into the face of Wavy Patty.
It's aggression, but unfortunately Jade Moon's switch onto the Mercy will not fall on deaf ears. Quick kill and a follow-up there for Yan. Almost able to find the Ramatra. They are being hunted down though. There should not be an easy way out, but with all the support in the world, both in terms of healing towards them and the damage output, better players able to find the kill and no effect as Tsunami.
I think that this is just, I mean, the Moira Lucio start kind of hurt them a bit, even though they had the advantages there. But I will say, near the end there, the combination of ultimates goes out.
That somehow does not find the kill onto Tsunami. They will make it forward even further. Finally, you'll see the Nemesis form used. The aggression is there, though. And Jade Moon at this point, not enough done. From behind again, you see Yan pepper through damage. The annihilation doesn't do enough, and off the back of it, you see a clean fight victory for Sheehan again. They're able to aggress as a team. They have the nano should it be required. They also have coalescence now built up if they want to use that as well, and it will be. The aggression from Tsunami will be found and punished. Yan a double, and that may very well determine New Queen Street as a close.
And with this much space already created in 2 minutes left, it's gonna be one of the potentially last team fights here. It's high noon, and there is another ultimate online, very close for the Death's Blossom to clear people off that point in overtime.
Oh, and Jade Moon up in the air, already low HP. There's the Death Blossom. It actually doesn't find anything because Bemby had their own Deadeye built up. From behind, they're playing around this barricade. The problem is they don't have enough damage output. Fortunately, Wavy Patty does. A 1 and a 2. Line him up, knock him down. Sheehan will be shut down for the first time in a long time.
I mean, that being said, every time they get control of the robot, they're still not able to capitalize on it fully. They push it near the point, but by the time they do, because of all the space that's been created by the Titans already, the Owls have no capability to push that point a substantial amount. See, they're already there in the face, and it hasn't even reached their point yet.
A lot of fights needing to be won here for Eli Whitney. 3 or 4 if you want to be exact at this point. This being one of them if they want to even get the barricade close to that checkpoint and advance spawn just to give themselves better opportunity later on in this. The problem is Tsunami fairly quickly taken care of in this fight. Already enough damage output that they need to work off the back of, and a follow-up onto Jade Moon. That should determine the fight. Mr. Billy turning into a DPS because if I've learned nothing from my comp games, Moira's DPS.
Moira is the best DPS. You don't have to aim. All you have to do is push, 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 W key in there. There's that Jav, Lin going out. Unfortunately, it gets in your face. Better players trying to prove their name yet again. Yan is the one that finds 3.
Oh, he's not done either. Tsunami uses Primal Rage, now the largest hitbox in the game at this point. Wavy Patty will not make it out alive, nor will Tsunami. Yan finds 4. It's down to High Bud to keep this alive. There's the teleport on top of the point just to keep it alive. But Deadeye, Coalescence, and Terra Surge all use. It's a press Q simulator here on New Queen Street, and Mark T. Sheehan will press W as they take the series 3-0.
And I mean, we talked about this earlier about a potential sweep here, although I will say, Eli Whitney, you guys put up a great fight, especially in that Lijiang tower. That being said, we do get to see some amazing action here. Hit scan for the win, gets one, comes up from the back, takes out both of the supports, a huge impact play, and then also takes a fight with the Ramatra, the tank. 1v tank situation there. That being said, our predictions were kind of correct to a degree. We managed to get it right in an unfortunate set of circumstances. It was a 3-0 in favor of the Sheehan Titans.
Paper, this was to be expected. Eli Whitney showed very good signs of life, especially early on Lijiang. Map 2 of Paraíso was okay for their defensive side, but their attack just couldn't find a foothold. And the New Queen Street, they looked good for 45 seconds, and then they just did not. After that, it was fight after fight, continuous wins there for Mark T. Sheehan. There was one occasion where, after giving up the checkpoint, Eli Whitney got it past the neutral point to deny forward spawns. One occasion, and after that, it was just the full completion, and Mark T. Sheehan ran away with the game.
I was gonna say, even in that final battle, like the second to final battle, more specifically, the final battle where Mark T. Sheehan needed to win out before they can win out the game, the final battle for Eli Whitney to stay in it, the second to final battle, more specifically in the timeline, but a really important battle to talk about nonetheless. They didn't get it fully over that point. It was just barely away from mid, and because of that, it just gave the Titans that edge. They were able to respawn a touch faster. They got into their faces and they just took them out. And I mean, I'm just curious how they do it.
Well, we'll find out when we come back from the break. We're going to get an interview with Jan, the Cassidy, who in seemingly every single fight was able to find multiple kills before we even saw them do so. We'll find out what they have to say and their thoughts on the series when we return. We're still online. Hi.
Hello.
Bye now.
Who is currently tied for third. So they're not third, they're tied. And hopefully if they can win this out, topple the first place and win out, they could maybe get that tie into a secured third spot. That being said, both of these teams are fairly evenly matched. So, I mean, it's going to be exciting to see how they play out in this game as we're going to head over to Lijiang Tower.
Lijiang Tower, everybody's favorite control map. I say everybody, it's not my favorite control map, but, you know, it's still a pretty cool one, too, as we get to load in, and it's one of the more unique ones. You could even argue with some specific environmental factors playing a huge part.
I mean, personally, I like Lijiang Tower. It's one of the first maps that I learned about and how to play on because I thought it was really fun to play Winston. So I like Lijiang Tower. I like Lijiang Tower a fair bit, I would say.
You like Lijiang Tower until you have to play against Symmetra May Junkrat, and then you're not gonna like Lijiang Tower, okay? That's how we're gonna put it today.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree on that. That being said, I'm curious to see what holds out.
And you know, it's I think we're talking about, I said Symmetra May Junk, just because those are the 3 DPS that come to mind here. Reinhardt specifically is going to be one of your more powerful heroes, particularly on this map. However, we are actually going to start on the one that we might not see that Reinhardt come to play. Your favors towards your Wrecking Balls, your Divas, your Orysas, more mobile heroes. So let's see what these teams are thinking about.
Ooh, they are going for Ryan. Both teams, Classy, Ducky, and Fish. Both interesting. Fish and Duck. One can peck the other. That being said, we'll have to see if Fish 65 can win out. Both of them going for, I mean, I personally, this is the first map that I remember when I first played Overwatch, and I liked Winston because I can jump over the gap and not fall to my peril. So I personally hold a special place in my heart for Tower. That being said, they're getting in, getting ready, and that speed from Super Sloth is helping them.
Yeah, you got that traditional teleport through the top from Thumbs, but you lost Sneaky Turtle so early on to pin off the map. For Fish goes completely wrong. They're the one who goes off the map. Oh my goodness, that could not have gone so much worse for Speedway High School. They're gonna get another shot though. Point is just being unlocked.
It's the Sparkplugs as their team names versus the Rams. Exciting to see. First point getting capped by the Rams, in thank to their team playing together, getting on there, and also to the misplay of Fish.
You could argue that, but Thumbs actually finds themselves out on the point by themselves. It was an idea with the teleporter. I like it, but you can't do it by yourself. Rams are just too coordinated to fall for that play. Fish is going to go down shortly after, and the remainder of Speedway, they just got to back off, conserve what they have, and hope they can come back stronger.
It was great utility from both sides. That sleep coming up on Classy Duck, stopping the pin, but still getting pushed off by the rest of the team. So good counter for the Rams.
Good counters, but they're still trying to find a way across this bridge, which Guardians can be notoriously difficult to that. Now they're walking in to some near ultimates here. It's actually going to be the Sparkplugs with the first. That Deadeye's up and running, looking for someone to just peek their head. Classy Duck, ooh, takes a huge chunk of damage out. Will be finished off, and this is the opening that Speedway needed to get themselves on that objective and hopefully get a flip here in the couple of moments. Nice last blow.
Sneaky Turtle, great plays with that magnet getting Lucio, but also with just the raw aim and brain in a 1v1 against the enemy Cassidy, they were able to win out.
It was a huge 1v1 to be able to take here, but now it's South River's turn to push across this bridge. Kitsune Rush in their grasp if they can manage to get it off. It's a huge aggressive push from Fish. It's gonna have to turn into something, but it's Bam Bam in the back. 3 down with the Death Blossom. Nice recovery from the Rams, capitalizing off of an overextension, and they'll get that point back super quick.
Man, a crazy battle between everyone. That being said, there are 2 very important ultimates right now for the Rams in their next team fight to keep them on point. That Deadeye gives them great positioning, and so does the Sound Bear, keeping them alive.
Speaking of positioning, you got a teleporter on to point, and Classy Duck finds themselves way out of position after a pin. Will eventually be falling. A lot of ultimates coming out from both sides. The Nano on the Fish seems to be doing the most work as Speedway, they're slinging themselves all the way to victory and will reclaim this point.
They use up their ultimates relatively quickly for the Rams. Unfortunately, the Sparkplugs were capable of not only baiting them out, waiting for them, but also using them to their advantage, stunning and stomping them to take back that point.
They're not going to have that advantage now. The Rams find themselves pretty drawn out from any resources, and it's going to be a nice pin to set up Sneaky Turtle on the Deadeye. And yeah, Speedway, they got a huge advantage here holding this bridge. Garden's notoriously difficult to retake.
And I mean, that's where the space comes in. They're able to take a decent amount of it because they're alive, confident, and ready. That Shatter online for Fish as well. And instantly getting pushed away, surprisingly.
They're gonna get pushed away. Their next beating, we're just going back to the bridge again. Everybody likes the bridge. Fish does too. Bull sends it straight in. Has a lot of support to keep them up though between an on a bap and the Earth Shatter sends everyone down to their own backs. Oh, that is Fish. Seemingly feeding, comes right back around. Classic Reinhardt move. We're in last fight territory already, nerds.
And that is going to be a team kill, a team wipe. And I agree, last fight territory indeed. They have that Symmetra TV set up as well to teleport to get them into Garden. It's going to be a last fight, but the last fight's not even happening on point.
You know why? Because that pin messed up Bam Bam's teleport, and then they got slept out of it. Oh, that was such a great move. I love that aggression there from Speedway in order to prevent that last touch. And I think that once they actually got control of the point here, especially with the Symmetra for extra mobility, Speedway were down, and look where we find ourselves on Symmetra's playground.
Ah, that indeed. I have a lot of fond memories of locking Symmetra on this map. That being said, we did see some interesting stuff happen. South River Rams, they're the first right now in this group. In this group, they are first seed, Speedway third. And because of that, you know, Speedway taking this early round is giving them vote of confidence and gives them some momentum to work with, some room to breathe, and hopefully come up victorious. That being said, the previous match that we saw earlier, again, it was also first seed versus, I believe, third seed as well. And the third seed kind of, they got the first win, but they weren't able to continue capitalizing off of it.
You got the first win, but looking at this here now, you're gonna want to snowball that together. You the teleporter to get you faster, playing against a full counter comp now essentially is this time. That charge will connect the way that Fish wants it to. That was setting Speedway off to an early lead of their own. South River made quite a few swaps here that in theory could work, but they just didn't have the setup this time.
Symmetra thumps, doing a huge amount of damage there on that Ramatra. The final blow going to the Ryan, not only giving them some ult, but also just some of that beautiful stat line. But just to highlight Symmetra's plays, like you said, Symmetra's playground, great place for turrets, great place for damage.
We're to see that locked round. I mean, South River, they're trying a bunch of different angles to go in. You got damage and Brood at the back of the pulse bomb. That's a good way to open it up. Is traded out for Super Sloth, though. Each team down a support, but the photon barrier puts Speedway up significantly. Yeah, you don't get the Symmetra out early. She's gonna microwave your team into pieces.
Cook, right? You know, it's like get them cooking, get them warmed up and ready. And that is going to just about be 50% by the time everyone gets back in there for the team fight. Oh, this sneaky Shatter. Shatter?
They just even need to do this. There's not even a shield to really stop them, but they don't even care. They're going in anyways. 2 down on the ground. Nice Suzu from Gunbro. That's actually going to keep everybody up. Force Fish back. Now with the Mercy of the Annihilation from Classy Duck. A powerful ultimate in the tank department to push it through. It's not going to stop anytime soon. The rampage forwards continues. And that will be South River coming up with a fight win.
Great counters from both teams. There's a lot to break down there. The Suzu after the Shatter, the dive in, the usage of ultimates, just in general. Good counters from both teams. They're playing off of the enemy's utility perfectly. But at 69% in favor of the Sparkplugs, they're one good team fight away from closing this off and giving them a very secure spot.
So close to putting this one through. Just need to find the resources to do it. You're walking into Kitsune Rush, though. If Gunbro can get this in a good position, that could be great. Get Bam Bam firing at all cylinders. We got a Death Blossom coming in. Get 2, or he will eventually be dispose of themselves. Yeah, that's going to be South River Rams coming up, understanding their win conditions and using them accordingly. Just looking to get the last couple of eliminations, but we're looking to maintain control.
Oh, and now the switch for Sneaky Turtle going on to that Genji. The mobility provided by that pick might win out, especially the deflect as well. There's a lot of utility there. That being said, the Rams, they're sitting pretty. They're about to even things out here at 69-69 for both teams on that percentage.
Getting close to that even territory, but that you might have just jinxed them because now they're on the point with the Symmetra teleporter with no gun bro and no Kitsune rush. That is a great approach from Speedway. Just take advantage of South River being way out in La La Land. Easy teleport to point.
And we already start seeing some of those plays with Genji, that dash to finish things off near the end, giving them an elimination in their favor. Two ultimates online, Symmetra ult and Baptiste ult, both working so well together, the amplification matrix and the wall.
Be huge tools, but we gotta get through this choke. That's what South River's thinking. They got the annihilation to do it. Earth Shatter laid it down, Drenson to cancel it out, but a huge cleanse will keep them alive, but Gunbro doesn't have it for themselves. Classy Duck has no other choice but to full send it straight to the objective. Keep burning players down in their path. Photon Barrier isn't going to do much against that ultimate. We're at 99% for Speedway. They wanted to commit those resources, but they just don't have the players to back up that claim, and will be forced to take another engagement.
And that Photon Barrier did not work. Ooh.
Okay.
Interesting play. I was just going to say that Photon Barrier not providing as much spacing as they would like. Unfortunately, the South River Rams are able to win out.
Yeah, and you know, that was just something that South River would have loved. Hold on. Student rush, but you know, you don't have it anymore. They are playing point though. They understand that Sim Teleporter's there, but it's actually a much more scary place to be. No Sim Teleporter, have to send your Ryan straight to point with only one support. Really following behind them. Have to target this Kiriko, get this Dragon Blade online. Don't have to worry about the Suzu, but it's so low by the time that they use it, and the sound barrier is there as well. This is gonna be a comeback from South River Rams, and we're taking this one all the way to round 3.
Round 3 on control, but in such a contested fashion. 99 to 100, literally inches and seconds away from tying it up on either side. The change of pace throughout this game has been interesting. Control gained and lost from both teams. Sneaky Turtle switching onto that Genji really helped them out. But this is going to be the last of the 3. And because of that, we see some different change-ups from both these teams.
Yeah, I think the main thing that we're looking at is going to be in that DPS lineup. We're seeing the Junkrat coming out from Thumbs. No Symmetra this time, and a Bastion coming through. With these two heroes, it's a lot of pressure onto the shield of Reinhardt, so that changes the way that the tank players are going to take these fights. And you know, typically on Control Center, you'll see that brawlout take place up on this high ground with Thumps just able to sit back, spam down these chokes. Doesn't look like a lot, but it certainly does the damage necessary to put it up through. Look how low South River already is though. Hit with a bio nade. They're healing up a little bit later, and they don't have control of the space. Thumps got the choke locked down, but no, Classy Ducky has had enough. Straight to the back line, but a sleep dart will mean the end of them. Speedway have to fight this through without a tank, and you know, the answer is they're really not going to be able to do it with the back South River Rams. We'll get that first cap.
And we saw this before where the underdog team was able to win out early on Lijiang, but they were not able to win out the last 2. Once the Rams warmed up, they won out.
And they were in, and then they were out. That is just a late finish, and honestly, more time, more percentage bought for them.
Like I said, I mean, they warmed up, they're ready. 80% on that Bastion. Bastion, an interesting pick indeed, but really powerful damage output as long as they can stay alive here. So we see them already spraying players down.
Yeah, look at that. Look how Anna has to run for cover here. Pebble Socks, though, is the one with the win condition in hand for Speedway. You get that nano onto somebody like Fish. It could really work out. Not gonna have a Junkrat to assist, and now you don't even have that nano boost at your disposal. So, yeah, South River Rams, they are gonna take another fight here. Classy Ducky getting aggressive, rightfully so, and this has been a great control of this objective so far.
Not only that, but they also have 5 ultimates for any team fight they go into next, up against the 2 from the Sparkplugs, and up against how much they're burning in terms of utility and those cooldowns as well as their ultimates. They're not going to be evenly matched up against the Rams with 60 seconds left on the 60% on the clock. They have to do something.
And the answer is going to be a nano boost onto the Reinhardt. You want it to work, but Bam Bam's in your backline coming up with a triple kill. Can't do too much about that at this point. Fish, they're laid down on their backs, and that's just going to be an easy cleanup. Team kill once again. Last fight incoming momentarily.
And it's going to be a hard-fought one. There's some ultimates online for the Sparkplugs, but they're really going to need to make sure that they are playing this perfectly in every capacity.
They have to find something to open it up, and hey, and Dark and Strike will do just the job. That's the eliminations we're looking for. Sneaky Turtle doesn't seem to be on the hunt, though, apparently. Oof, all right. Something you don't usually see from the Archer, but you're gonna need a lot more like that if you're gonna hold 99%.
It's gonna be the amphibian squad of turtles and fish going hand in hand, working together to clean things up near the end. I mean, absolutely great plays.
Yeah, great plays, but it's not looking so great for Fish. Gets themselves in a corner, but between the anti-nade and the animate and the immortality field, they're keeping themselves alive. It doesn't matter. Classy Duck could care less. They just both sent into the backline, pick up 3. If that's not a Reinhardt main, I don't know what is, because the Reinhardt came in, went to work, and said, nope, you guys are all nails. You're going down to the ground, and South River Rams looking good to take this point, lock it down despite a rough start on Gordon. Will be going up 1 in our series.
And that is going to be 2-1, a victory for the South River Rams. I mean, that was a hard-fought battle. We get to see Sneaky Turtle, and honestly, this is well-deserved here. Being able to capitalize off that ult, zoning players off, and then using that spray. You're stuffing the barrel as much as you can. You do a decent amount of damage and win out. Unfortunately, they weren't able to win out Speedway. Sparkplugs fell, but they did put up a dang good fight.
They certainly did. The fact that they were able to take Gordon's out too wasn't a bad thing whatsoever. I think Lijiang Tower is one of those maps that can often be more specific when it comes to compositions you're just not going to see anywhere else. So I don't really want to use this map, or the viewers can use this map, to say how the rest of the series is going to go. It was relatively closely contested for what it is, but in general, we're going to be moving to different territory as with the control map type. So Hybrid is where we're going to next set our sights, and Paradiso is where we will find ourselves.
I mean, a beautiful map indeed, and I think that it's going to be... Last time I saw Paradiso, it was... Once they got the high ground on that first choke, that first archway, it was really, really difficult for the teams to push forward. You need a blast through that. We saw some Doom play come out as well to counter that, as well as some ball play, but it just didn't work out. Wrecking Ball is powerful, Wrecking Ball is good, but they just dove in too far. Hopefully that doesn't happen for the Sparkplugs here. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams have a really good counter to that already prepared and thought up.
You're talking about the compositions here that what we saw in Lijiang likely isn't going to continue on this map. I mean, the defense, what we're seeing from Speedway, I'm not mad at this. I think this is a good take. If you know that Fish on Reinhardt is going to be your strength, awesome. Set up behind that. Get thumbs on a Junkrat, Sneaky Turtle on a Sojourn to control that high ground, control these different chokes. To deny South River Rams as they come in, as they're playing completely different style over here, nerds.
And I mean, it's the Widow. I personally really like Widow. I think it's really fun. When I first saw it, when I first saw it here on the Ram side, I was like, oh, this is going to be a very interesting player. If Damaging Prune can do some damage, get some prunes, I guess, they can do a lot in this game. That being said, they are on attack from the start.
They'll be spinning out attack. You would argue this could be a more defensive comp as you would typically see, but South River Rams, they're playing this poke-oriented game, and that's completely okay. You're relying on damaging Prune to get a pick, for Bam Bam to get up close and personal and help burn down Fish, who mentioned does not have that same support with an Ana back. Now has a Lucio to escort them, and already seeing the effects with that, having to give up so much space. That first high ground was just taken just by the amount of force, and there goes Thumps. Bam Bam got themselves in a great position to take him down, damaging Prune, following it up with another one. Thinking will eventually be on its case, but the damage has already been done. South River Rams, they bought their time, knew how to play this comp into speedways, and will get some percentage as a result.
That being said, everyone's still alive for the Rams. They use the horns, they bash it in and get there onto point.
Ooh.
Sneaky Turtle still alive in the back line though, does damage.
They're still alive. I mean, it gets a chance for a re-engage. You got the overclock up already, and is this the hero we've been waiting for? Gets the Honest Super Slot down. There goes damaging Brood. Sneaky Turtle just put this team on their backs. Is going to prevent a full capture in just pure Sojourn mana.
And on that first choke as well, on the first right turn that they're fighting on, it is just, they push them all the way back, Sneaky Turtle, with one ultimate. A hero in the making, honestly.
That was huge. You should not have lived there, essentially. And now Speedway, they're gonna have to use resources of their own just to try to defend this. And they have it built up. South River, though, you got a Kitsune Rush. I need to see that early. It has got to go up now, especially with Thumps going down. Secure the fight when you're going straight into the backline. That is asleep on the Blossom. Nope, they've had enough of Bam Bam shenanigans. Have to rely on the rest of the team. Very scrappy this engagement is turning out to be, but they're slightly more red in the kill feed than blue. And the attackers are looking to claim this full point. Fish, the only one left to say anything about it, but yeah, no HP. Right in the mouth. There we go. That's going to be that first point unlocked, and South River are going to get this payload on the roll.
Kitsune Rush.
Yep.
Oh, not yet.
Nope,
there we go. There we go. They just needed to finish out one player. Damaging Prune, swapping over to the Sojourn and doing a lot of damage. Enough, in fact, to get that overclock online and ready, along with Classy Duck's ult as well. Both of them could work really well together. I mean, personally, I am a huge fan of Gravatic Flux. It's very fun lines, fun voice lines as well. But at the same time, it's just in combination with the rest of the ults, it could really do some damage to the team.
There's a lot of resources that we're looking at from both ends. The positioning here is going to be the key point. However, who's going to have control of the high ground right now? It's Sneaky Turtles up there close to that overclock, which could be devastating in the long run. You're relying on that hero to do something, but hey, Thumps also got a Rip Tire. Nope, never mind, they don't. I spoke too soon. Sorry, Thumps, cast a curse right there. Sneaky Turtle, though, is actually going to follow through with that overclock. Gets one, gets two. And yep, that's going to be a clean house for Speedway. So they're going to find themselves on the defense again.
Ooh, Sneaky Turtle misses that play just by a touch, but that ultimate invested, damaging Prune on the other side. The coin has flipped, and there is an ultimate online for them. Switching to Orisa here for the Rams instead. Interesting plays here, but because they're starting on the high ground and they just need to push out against this Reinhardt, it makes sense.
Going to look. They just burn down this Reinhardt. Ideally is the name of the game, but it's hard when you don't have control of the high ground right now. It does force Sneaky Turtle down by a nice thrown shadow. So we're playing much more close quarters, which honestly fits the style of Speedway much better, but they're going to struggle against the Nano Sojourn, who's going absolutely ballistic. There it is. Triple kill with them. All the resources pumped into the right player. Clearly, they're the one to make things happen.
And with the Ryan down, they have control of point, pushes forward. The heals come out for Bam Bam as the point inches ever so closer to that second checkpoint. And I mean, the Rams, they're doing such a good job of pushing through, bashing it in. They aren't even worried about it. Like you said, they are able to take down that shield from Ryan relatively quickly.
You want to do that again. I mean, Fish has, that shield's basically been burned at this point, but so is the health of Classy Duck. You don't got a shield anymore on Orisa. That's way back in Overwatch 1. Seems like forever ago at this point. And Sneaky Turtle is making sure to know that, taking control of this high ground once again, where our Sojourn should be, and just trying to punish the positioning of their opponents on the retreat.
And I like the counter of positioning coming out from damaging Prune, also taking the high ground and taking the fight, having Sneaky Duck get pushed out of positioning. But then the instant trade in areas, Thumps is able to take some of that space back.
Get back down in the Junkrat and look at the ultimate economy right now. I see a lot of glowing check marks up there. And Speedway, if they're just going to keep getting staggers like this, though, they're not even going to need them at this rate. There's the Wraith form already forced out, too. What's in dead Bam Bam? For another thing, Rams, they've lost so much time here, nerds. Just by losing players one by one. Sneaky Turtles, it might have actually forced them to have a full regroup with this overclock rushing straight in. No fear at all. And we're down to the final 45 seconds.
And I was gonna say, it doesn't matter how many ultimates you have as long as the enemy team has fallen. They weren't even able to use them, but Classy Duck, Gunbro, Super Sloth, Bam Bam, I'm just reading the whole roster here. Damaging Prunes at 83. Rams are about to have a fully stacked economy there and are hopefully going to utilize that at least some of them for the final push. You gotta use that Kitsune Rush, bare minimum.
This is Speedway's fight to lose right now. They just don't have the matchup for this. They got the Earth Shatter though, but nothing else is going their way because the DPS line of the Rams are making themselves known, plowing their way through the opposition in just the nick of time too. That team kill will hit. And overtime as well. The capture is going to be likely it's not going to be guaranteed. Javelin, no. Okay, there we go. It is going to be guaranteed.
There we go.
We will get to see that third point after all.
But they're not making it easy. The Sparkplugs pushing out against it. The counter with the Earth Shatter coming out from Fish really stunned the momentum that Rams had. Thankfully, though, they had some ultimates still build up, like Bam Bam's Death's Blossom, so it wasn't completely out of question for them to win there. And they were able to win out, keeping themselves alive for another point.
Yeah, but they don't got a lot of time or resources to do it. You're relying a lot on the Nano from Super Sloth here to make it happen. Ideally, it's going to go on to Classy Duck or Damaging Prune to actually follow through, either whether it's a saving Nano or not. And, you know, it's right up to come out sooner rather than later after losing that player. Damaging Prune, yeah, there's the Nano, but now you don't got a tank to back it up behind. And this is Speedway taking advantage, continuing those stagger plays through, and not something the Rams can afford.
And look at this, how the turns have tabled. Sparkplugs really close to getting their full ult economy online. Thumps being the only one not there. And during the 25 seconds left on the clock timer moments in the chaos of all of it, it's going to give them a huge advantage here, having that economy built up.
Oh yeah, Speedway got everything in the bank right now. Time to make some withdrawals. There goes the Earth Shatter. Everything else in the Sneaky Turtle to just push this one forwards. Yeah, that is going to be just about it. The Rams got a good amount of distance, but Speedway held their ground so incredibly well here, nerds, that they've set the bar at a decent win condition.
I mean, 2 checkpoints, 38 meters, just about. I mean, that's still relatively good. In theory, this is very winnable for the Sparkplugs right now, and they can start to slowly chip away at the South River Rams. I mean, not only emotional state, but also like their defenses, right? If you can get into your opponent's heads, if you can throw off their mental game just by a little bit, even if you can't necessarily win like they did, they fell in Lijiang, they can still do a decent amount of damage, right? The mental game, sometimes even more important than the actual game itself. I mean, not always. Very clearly here, the Rams have the capability to win it out, to stall them out, especially on this first choke with the high ground. But I mean, we'll have to see. I do think that Damaging Prune switching off from Widow, I wanted to see some cool Widow plays. Unfortunate. We'll see if they stick with the Ashe as well. I'm thinking.
The Ashe will definitely be there. Damage Improved will be able to have that down. I mean, you got the Coach Gun, you got the Dynamite. It's overall more damage, more mobility, which is pretty good. Especially looking at some swaps from Speedway.
I was gonna say that ultimate. I was like thinking, macerating in my mind, Damaging Prune's capabilities here, and I think that Bob could definitely do something here.
Bob always does something. Bob's the best 6 player you could ask for.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, Bob does something whether it's helpful or not so helpful, but hey, Ashe does some pretty cool stuff too, as we're seeing from Damaging Prune right now. A lot of pressure early on in this high ground. That's why we're going to see Fish kind of try to bully them off of it. It's a wraparound, though, from Speedway. They do get the trade. Both tanks have fallen, so going to be much more scrappy from here on out than it is quite literally just that, but the positioning still better for the Ashe player. The fact that for even right now, nerds, is kind of insane. That Ana going down will definitely set Speedway back a couple steps, though.
And I just want to mention, we're talking a lot about damaging crew, and Ban doing an amazing job with the placement of the turrets, as well as doing damage to build up that ultimate in their favor. It's going to really help them out in the long run to have that wall.
It will.
The barrier.
You can just kind of hold this down. And plus, Duck is trying to just lock down the corner. You lost the high ground now. This is what you do as a Reinhardt. You shield your team. You're the good old rectangle man. You get Bam close enough to charge up this photon barrier 200% and really microwave. Look at that damage going in on the fish. That doesn't feel good. Sneaky Turtle's like, I'll take care of it for you. Bye-bye, Bam. See you next time. This Classy Duck is gonna rush on forward, zone everybody out, and eventually off the back of Sneaky Turtle, Speedway find themselves on the objective.
And they're doing it a lot faster, mind you, than the Rams did. The Rams, I believe, only having a couple of minutes on the clock when they were able to even get point in the first place. But capturing it 2 minutes in, that gives them 4. It's a huge advantage in comparison to the Rams. They have basically all the time in the world here to work with Sparkplugs.
4.5 minutes, pretty darn good. But I like how River, they're playing on this little pink building outside the spawn, so they're not really taking any, there's not too much benefit here. I mean, you're running an Ashe, I mean, yeah, that's kind of cool, but right now you don't have too much to really work with, and eventually you're all gonna have to drop. Nice counter pin, and the anti and the Discord, this is just an anti-Reinhardt comp and damaging crew. It just casually comes up with another 3K, because why not? And yeah, this has just been South Rivers maps all the way.
Well, we didn't get to see the photon barrier come out too much, as Bam had to go for the switch. 2 ultimates for the Rams, if we're talking about, since we're already on the topic. They have Bob, and I love to see it. Makes it basically Overwatch, with a 6th player there. But we'll see if they come out. Oh, there's the overclock.
Yep, we run away from the overclock right now. Classy Duck will not be able to do that, so the overclock's just going to be how that fight goes. Put a nano on him, to be expected of Sneaky Turtle.
They're already setting everything up with that utility from Symmetra. Thumps knows how to play it. They have that ultimate online and ready. Symmetra Sombra. My brain has started lagging. The EMP is there.
EMP's there, and you get okay. You throw it out onto nobody. That that happens sometimes. There's a lot of space, Blanco, and your shadow tonight. So Speedway, they're still in a great spot to push this one forward. Kitsune and Rush looking to turn it around for Fox River. Power the Foxes by their sides, and a charging in Reinhardt will do just the case if they can get rid of Sneaky Turtle. And the Reinhardt, they will do just that and be able to stop just shy a second point.
Just shy of it indeed, but still, looking at the clock, looking at the timer, when they got into second point, it was at overtime for the Rams. Now they have 2 minutes. 2 minutes 30 for the Sparkplugs to do what the Rams were struggling to do earlier, and that's a good sign for them. That being said, they're going to need to win this team fight out to do so.
That would certainly be a great start to pull through. Sparkplugs, they even have this Transcendence in the back pocket, expecting Bam to just walk in their own ultimate, but it's too late because Sneaky Turtle is on the Sojourn's got an overclock. That certainly means death for their opponents, and yep, that's just gonna be about it. It's a reoccurring pattern, nerds. Sneaky Turtle has just been ridiculous on this tech.
And I was gonna say, all of the DPS taking all the players out, but looking at the assist, it's just a team effort here. That's why we call it a team fight, because they're doing such a good job as damaging Prune from the sidelines able to grab 1.
And that's a huge stagger, right? Speedway, they're coming into this with 1 support, so that will set them back South River. They're gonna take advantage of it. There's the pin on a Classy Ducky, I believe. So payloads, yes, it's still gonna move. It's very close to that fight. The last one's coming in, but damage improvement. Bam will make sure it will not be the last. Nice utilization of both of their ultimates, but a heavy commitment is put in.
Oh, he finds a little more. The Cassidy's able to get some of that Somber utility off health packs. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a hard-fought battle right now for the Rams, but they're gonna need to push that point, push the payload all the way back. I only have about 10 meters left to win us out for the Sparkplugs.
The losing Ziggy Turtle and the Earth Shatter put down. You could argue the necessity of that ultimate, but hey, you will take it. Oh, okay, you know what? I'm not going to argue it anymore because Fish just did exactly the same, or excuse me, Classy Ducky did exactly the same thing. So, yeah, there we go. Earth Shatters from either side.
That being said, there's still an ultimate for Gun Bro as well. Ironically enough, not using guns, but kunai instead. On the flip side, there's 2 ultimates for Sparkplug, and really close to getting both those DPS up and online for that as well.
Hey, you got the Kitsune, that's going to be massive. Look how fast Bam Bam's fighting away. Bam, bam, bam as it goes, but Fish with the nano boost is turning this one around. It's just a reminder, if Speedway win this out, they could potentially take the entire map here. They're looking to do so, but they're losing the integral pieces to their comp. Damaging Brood was there, but not long enough. Sneaky Turtles return to the fight in the nick of time. Wants to give their team that win, and no, Super Slot, that you just simply do not jump there. Gonna be a 2v2, make it a 4v2 now. The spawn so much closer for the attackers. Transcendence will be out, infinite sustain available. Earth Shatter means that there's nothing there for Classy Ducky, as Speedway looking to even up this series at a nice 1-1. And ooh, nerds, we've got ourselves a game.
It's not going to be a wash here. They're winning out. Sparkplugs get themselves an even series, and I'm just excited to see this play of the game. An absolutely amazing play coming out from Classy Duck. Interesting that it's coming out from Classy Duck. They were not the winning team here, but they did do a decent amount of damage in this fight. Just to talk a little bit about that game on pre-sale, they evened it out, but also they were able to do such a good job of denying them denying them the ability to get onto and sustain themselves, pushing that payload.
Yep, and I think there was a major difference in how the pace was being controlled this game. Speedway, they were able to take advantage of it quite a bit as we were moving through, and, you know, seeing how Speedway, they got a lot of staggers. They capitalized on the little small errors that we saw from the Rams, and you know, that's just kind of how it went when you're looking towards our next map and push, where that pacing becomes all the more important. Can't be making those same mistakes, and you know, we are going to go ahead and find that out in a little bit, because in the meantime, we are going to head to a brief intermission to get things in order, and we'll be right back to you in a little bit. and Tiny Shiny and Nerds are back once again on the EGFH High School Esports channel. And no, we are at a really good spot in our series. Both these teams tied up 1 apiece. Going through high intensity match, and it's about to even get more intense as Push is going to be the next selection.
We're headed on over to New Queens Street, an interesting map indeed. We saw it earlier, but last time we got to see it, it wasn't at a 1-1. It was actually in favor of the top seeded team. This time it's going to be a little bit different. The Sparkplugs looking to progress on the standings and in the leaderboard, secure that 3rd spot, and maybe even try and go for 2nd to prove themselves and win out here on New Queens Street.
And whichever team here gets this point is going to go up in this series. It's just going to be really great. I think that we're seeing a momentum-based game at this time, specifically from the Rams. I want to point out once they actually got a fight win on the board, they were able to chain those together, and knowing the nature of a push map, particularly New Queen Street, it's this early game that really matters. Whichever team's going to get off to the strong start, get that progress out early on, their chances of coming out on top at the end of these 10 minutes are infinitely higher.
I feel like it is that snowball, like you mentioned. Once the first team gets that first point, they have that forward spawn, they have the momentum in their hand and in their favor. It's really difficult for the opposing team to win out and counter that. That being said, there's a couple of differences that I see, but the most notable one in my eyes is the change from Classy Duck going on to Ramatra.
You know, we saw this a little bit back on Night Market, if I'm not mistaken. Classy Ducky knows that Ramatra can fare decently well against a Reinhardt, with the pummels being able to go through his shields. Thing is, Ramatra's very average at many things and isn't super strong at one, other than full sending it in your backline. Sometimes you just gotta ignore the tank, but with what they're partnered with, I'm curious as where this is going to go. And already, I know where Bam Bam's going. Bam Bam's going for a swim in the river below New Queen Street, and Speedway, they're coming out of the gates, quite literally speeding into it, and will win this fight in record time.
Wow. All thanks to that speed boost coming out, and this is going to give them a lot of space early on. And because of that, like I said, the first team to get that spacing, the first team to start winning out and gaining that momentum has a really easy time, especially if they can capitalize off of this and get to that first checkpoint relatively quickly.
You know what's going to be extra big here in terms of setting pace? Look at that Earth Shatter charge. Fish was able to build up off that momentum. There it is! 3 or 4 laid down. Couldn't expect it, but nope. Fish always got to have Earth Shatter. He gets both supports before falling themselves, but that is plenty. This is the momentum game we're talking about.
Wow. Wow. Even though there's a lot of ultimate charge builds up for the Rams, which they might need to use soon, it's still looking a little bit stressful for them as it is getting really dangerously close to that first checkpoint.
So much. That first checkpoint is capped. That could spell disaster for South River. They have to stop the bleeding now. In order to do so, they're hoping damaging Prune on this Tracer. Building up to that pulse bomb. A stick here could just be the end of it. The control of the robot has been flipped over, but the players are still alive for Speedway, and they're doing that damage necessary to pull it through. Another one laid on for Thumps, and this is key because zero major abilities were used, and now Speedway, they're likely to get that first point off of it.
And that they do, and that is going to give them the momentum they need. The ultimate on Fish is almost already charged. Same thing with Pebble. They just have this momentum, and the momentum is carried over not only in the spacing but in their ultimates. Well,
Fish is essentially gonna have 2 Earth Shatters before Classy Ducks even manages to get 1, which is utterly ridiculous to have. He got the nano boost onto him too. Fish is no fear in the world. Now off kind of alone, has the Sombra to back them up, looking to win out this Reinhardt 1v1, and they're not gonna be able to. You know what? Fish is alive with a sliver of health and will manage to do so. Thumps though tried to come to the rescue, ended up paying for it. And the key here, first point has been captured. So South River, they gotta stop the robot here before too much damage is done. They have the Kitsune rush to do it. Get Classy Ducky in there. That hammer's flying on all angles, and finally, South River, they can take a breath of relief because they're gonna get some progress.
mean, they had to climb the mountain, but now they're gonna have to climb even further. That forward spawn's still active for a chunk of those players as they take it back towards mid. I mean, it's gonna be difficult.
Oh, yeah, very difficult. I mean, South River, they're fighting against an EMP right now. They don't have the abilities to do so. They lose their main tank and main support right off the bat. It's like with push, it's 2 steps forward, or 1 step forward, 2 steps
back.
Once the first point is capped, and we're seeing that effect right now.
And because they have those ultimates, not only are they able to retake that space that they once lost, but they're also able to contest a lot more and push up a lot further.
Oh yeah, that was a nice combo. Damage and Prune just wasn't ready for their opponents to be face to face, ready to brawl. But here we are, Sneaky Turtle with that overclock as well. Could change the fate of this fight if they stay alive. And Thumps is making sure that they'll have that opportunity. And Fish, aggressive as ever, lays down that hammer. Call it an MTD if you will, because Speedway, they don't care if they have to play the extra 5 minutes. They're going for the full completion.
They don't want to play this out. They want to cap it and then put it away like a water bottle that you're done with for the night. And it is just going in favor so well of Fish. The aggression unparalleled in this game.
And what can you even do at this point? South River, they're going for desperation plays just to get this turned around. They're coming up with 1 at a time, and slowly it's adding up to something that could be workable. But Nano Boost onto Fish, have to turn it around quickly. It does look like South River are going to be able to do so, but the Reinhardt still causing a pretty major issue. Has the backup, the fact that everyone's getting 8 close spawns. Here we go again, back to the center.
And again, they have that sound barrier online for Lucio, so there's a huge advantage there. 3 ultimates for the Rams is going to be, is it going to be enough to net them this win? Especially with how aggressive the Sparkplugs have been so far.
They've been aggressive, but so is Bam Bam. Bam Bam's in the one on these flanks to be able to go through. We see the teleport up onto the back. We know what's coming, Bam Bam. Show it to us. Gets Shabby and Pebble Socks down. 2 supports gone. Any damage taken is permanent, but that's going to be the same said. 5 laid down to their back. Speedway, they're making the comeback here. No support. They can care less because they're still the winners.
I was literally just about to say earlier, it was like, oh yeah, I can say with certainty the Sparkplugs can win this out, right? They can win this out. But earlier, when the Rams were able to push through and get that point, they were able to push it a little bit, start making some progress. I was like, you know, I might not be so certain. I might have to eat my words here. But in this situation, I fully am a believer in the Sparkplugs here. You guys got to win out. Get yourself that 2nd seed.
They're looking to. They're very close. 4 minutes still on the clock. Losing Sneaky Turtle isn't the end of the world. If you take a loss here, I mean, they'll get those forward spawns at the very least. At least that's the hope. But Classy Ducky, this is like Pin Central. The Reinhardt things, only Reinhardt things, and it's low-key working for South River because they're eventually getting that progress. They're not completely starved out, but a long ways to go. Oh.
It feels as the Fish is almost holding back a little bit, waiting for something to happen. And I think that something is these ultimates hopefully getting online so they can get that final push that they need to win things out.
I'm looking for it here. I mean, South River, they got a lot to work with, but so do Speedway, and you can't use anything if you're EMP'd. Both supports will be there to try to save the day for South River, but they've taken a lot of health. They don't have high HP bars to push it through, and Speedway, they certainly have that at their disposal. Heavy investment from the Sparkplugs, but anything to get the robot moving in their way.
And they still have a overclock. They have 2 ultimates there along with a boost. So in combination, that is going to be it's going to be dangerous. A team wipe if played correctly. And we're going to see some more pins. No, but at least gets far up there in their face.
You said Fish was holding back. No, Fish is not holding back. Fish is just aggressive, but will get punished for it eventually. And hey, sometimes that's all South River needs to do is just bank on somebody from Speedway messing up so then they can move it in their direction.
That being said, they have 115 meters up for the Sparkplugs.
Yep.
The Rams are going to push up so they can hopefully get it at least up to 115 so they can contest it.
Yeah, they're hoping, I mean, nice stagger on a sneaky turtle too. That will work out very well for them, especially with Bam Bam just kind of playing around this choke, but you didn't have Wraith form. Yeah, that's okay. A little bit of a yikes. Don't got the Reaper player now, so Speedway can play with that aggression, not too afraid anymore. Damage and Prune doing their best to turn this around. Sees how low they got the Lucio. That's full support spawn, and the robot is currently at a standstill while everyone else is kind of brawling it out in the midpoint. Difference here is where's the tank present for South River? It's not present right now. They do have the damage for the time being to follow up. These trades eventually are going to favor the Rams, and they need to get that first point here.
And South River switching over Classy Duck onto that Sigma. Very interesting choice indeed. I personally enjoy Sigma as well, but they have a decent amount of abilities there. Gravitational Gravitic Flux not online, and at least for a little while it's going to be difficult.
Oh yeah, one thing Sigma doesn't excel at is blocking a lot of things, and Earth Shatters fall into that category. Fish is like pre-ultimate for me, and that's just how it works. Speedway, they're winning that resource game right now.
Resources indeed, and I think that switch, the switches that they're doing are, I would even argue, maybe a touch too late, as the ultimates are already being built up for Sparkplugs. So in this battle, in their team fights, as we're nearing the end, they're going to heavily favor the Sparkplugs.
You were talking heavily favored. Add another one to that list, especially with how close Super Sloth was to that sound barrier. Granted, they will be able to complete a recontest, but not in time for the EMP. Deadeye about to come out. Great combo. Even better. Cleanse from Gunboy to keep that one up, and it isn't even trade for the DPS. Those will currently favor the Rams as where the spawns are positioned. So that robot will be heading backwards. Any staggers gained here by South River are going to be massive.
And they're just getting hunted down. Fish is running away. Super Sloth finds one, but I think that is going to be done for. With 10 seconds left on the clock, they're going to need to play this perfectly. The River Rams have that ultimate. Gravitic Flux is online. We'll see if that melody, that tune can save them near the end here.
It simply has to. There isn't any other option. The Turtle fell really late in that fight. They got everything to work with. This is their chance to make that miracle run, but uh-oh, Damage and Prune, they're not where you thought. We're going around the backside. As Speedway, they're taking an alternative angle. It does push Fish without his support for the time being, and look at that! Critical error as Fish is gonna get caught out. Pebble Socks barely staying alive through that Gravitic Flux. Won't be after a giant boulder that smacks him in the face, and Speedway, the miracle run might just happen.
Oh, near the end, the accretion working out in favor of Classy Duck. The switch to Sigma paying dividends here as they try to finish things off. They're already nearing that 100-meter mark as we see the sound barrier online for Super Sloth.
It's got to be huge here, right? Look, Fish is out with his ult charge. They're not going to get it. This actually could be winnable. The sound barrier is out. They see a sign of victory. The cracks are showing. And South River, they're making it known. They might just do it after being down the entirety of a push map. That checkered line is mere meters away. You got Stumps coming back in the back line. Fish returning with the Earth Shatter solo onto Bam Bam. One might just be all needed, but somebody's going to get on the payload, and they're not going to do it in time. South River Rams are going to take the lead here in an absolute Cinderella story of a push map.
Wow. What an amazing run. That switch paying so much in return. I mean, we can't discount Fish. They did such an amazing job with their aggression, but it's the Duck who's able to take you out, grab you out of the water, and take you out of position. I mean, that was an intense battle between the two teams. 1-2. Speedway is, I mean, they're on the downturn. When you put a good team up against the wall, when you take a Ram and you put it up against the wall, what are they going to do? They're going to bash through. They're going to come at you. They're going to make sure that they are not going to be stuck in that position. And that's exactly what happened here.
Oh yeah, that was one heck of a push map. And we talked so much about the momentum game, and how the early game matters more, and you know what? For 90% of that round, it did.
It did?
It's all the way. It looked like Speedway. About 5 minutes, I called it in my head. I'm like, oh, this is Speedway's game all the way.
Yeah.
But no, the Rams came back. They proved me wrong. They flipped that snowball right around, practically pushing it uphill at any rate. And here they are. They're on match point, nerds. As we're gonna head into our 4th map, which is kind of crazy to think about. And I'm still. I'm gonna be thinking about that last map for a while, even as we're moving into another one.
And I think that's how you play a push map. As much as we talk about as casters about how you get your all of that momentum early on, being able to confidently switch to something and being consistent in what you're doing is really important. We always say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if it ain't, I mean, if it isn't even functioning, then you got to fix it. You got to change something, but you give it a little bit more time to breathe. A lot of teams, they'll switch to something. It doesn't work for one team fight. They're like, it's not going to work. And then they dip off. But in this situation, that didn't happen. Classy Duck sticking with the Sigma for a couple of team fights, building up that ultimate and being able to utilize that cooldowns and those utilities really well.
And, you know, it's all about that rotation coming through. Push is often, or not often, but sometimes can be grouped in the same category as control when you're forced to play this more clashy style, though. That's where you're going to see the speed of fights is going to just roll in waves, where as when we looked as a map such as Symbolize Monastery, that's where that poke game is going to start to peak out a little bit. I would expect to return to more of our Sojourns, maybe even that Hanzo and some Sigma from what we've seen previously. And you know, we're moving to a very different game type here, which honestly you could argue favors Speedway as they head into it. But we can take all the predictions we want. It's what's going to matter is the facts. How are these players going to elect to play this game? As they're rolling out here, it's going to be Speedway taking us off on the defense, and I'm not surprised by this in the slightest.
I was about to say, I mean, we can predict all we want, but the Rams will prove us wrong, and so will the Sparkplugs, regardless of the situation. On paper, the Sparkplugs were going to get rolled by the Rams, but they didn't. They were able to win out. So, that being said, I'm not too surprised. We do see Classy Duck back on the Sigma, Fish back on the Ryan. I mean, comfort picks, especially for the start, they work out.
Hey, you play to your strengths. That's half the game of Overwatch sometimes.
Exactly.
Do what you're good at and work it out for the best. I mean, damage includes Hanzo. We haven't talked as much about it as we probably should be, just because it's so strangely accurate as RNG that hero can be. The question is, though, how does that work into a Reinhardt? To answer that, not super well if you're playing close range. Classy Ducky isn't going to be able to hold that space as well as the giant rectangle man can. You're just going to get run over. You take so much damage as a result and simply don't have matching kits. But when you get damaging through in a position like that to just take Pebble's heads off, that's exactly when it becomes all the worthwhile. Battle's still certainly not over yet. The payload's locked down. Fish needs to be dislodged in order for anything to happen. And you know what? If you can't move Fish, you move everybody else. But Fish is tired of being the punching bag here. Says, it's my turn. Goes on in, picks up 3. Sneaky Turtle with the side help as well. And South River had a good start, just couldn't follow through.
Sparkplugs win out. They push that payload backwards, and we already see a shatter coming out from Fish. Not too surprising. The aggression unmatched. And I feel like maybe on push it was a little bit difficult, but in this situation you have a lot more room to work with. You have about 3 checkpoints before you need to fall back. So I think the aggression will work out.
That's the goal here. You just gotta hold down rock solid, bunker onto this payload. That's where the Reinhardt provides the rest. You know that Classy Ducky, you can't match that. That's not how it works. Dragon Strike is gonna help though. Fish cannot escape from that, no speed. So finally the problem child is gone. South River have some room to kind of work this out, but that isn't to say that in Speedway, you don't underestimate your opponent. They still have the Riptire, the Overclock, if they opt to use it at this time. They're losing their momentum ever so slightly. Being here with the Riptire could just simply be a threat that nobody seems to be taking care of, and even Bam Bam going down. And Speedway, they're getting back much quicker than they expected.
I mean, he's hiding away. I wouldn't be surprised if they use it to push them off when everyone regroups. That being said, there's still 3 ults for the Rams. They have that Kitsune Rush online and ready.
And it's got to be the thing that puts you forward through this choke. You get damaging Brune and Bam Bam in there. Ooh, that that is a recipe for victory. Gotta make it happen though. It's actually gonna be the sound barrier first to counteract that Earth Shatter. Nice timing from Super Sloth to make that happen. Here's the Kitsune Rush, and it's just too late for Classy Ducky to take advantage of it because Sneaky Turtle gets in there. But that's what we're talking about, getting those DPS players, have those short cooldowns. That rapid rate of fire is gonna be massive moving through because Bam Bam and Damage Improved, they're showed up to work today and are gonna get the payload at least to the top of this hill.
And I mean, the South River Rams, they need this so they can win out, close the series, and prove that they are once and for all the first seed, the top of the top, and leading the pack here. That being said, the Sparkplugs literally on the opposite end of the spectrum, trying to prove themselves and take themselves higher up on this leaderboard.
They're looking for a rough start with that Riptire. They have to rely on the payload, but South River, they've established themselves there. You ain't knocking them off, especially with Classy Ducky returning to the Reinhardt. I'm not surprised in the slightest. I think this job just got so much easier for the attackers.
Ooh, and now it's going to be a heavy push. They got the first payload, 3 minutes left, and they got the first checkpoint with 3 minutes left, and they're taking so much space right now. These team fights are happening up close and personal in enemy territory, and that's going to give them a lot of room to work with later on, especially if they lose this team fight for the Rams. If they lose it, they still have a lot of space because this payload is being just pushed up behind them.
I love where the Rams are playing right now. Getting that high ground part taken care of so you're playing on essentially even turf is huge to think of moving forwards. However, that isn't to say that the Sparkplugs, they got an amp matrix, they got fish sitting behind it on the Earth Shatter, but it's too late for them because Classy Ducky saw that window of opportunity, took it for themselves, and that's likely going to be the second point capped. And what a shift in our momentum.
I agree with you entirely. Playing on even ground works out, and I hope that they keep up this momentum pushing forward in the enemy territory so they're not playing at any disadvantages here.
And you got the quick spawns from Speedway, so they'll be able to hold at this choke, but they burned quite not really a lot to get your, gonna be rather having to evenly matched, and the sound barrier will change that back around though. Sumps did not have that pleasure as Bam Bam gets themselves into the back. It's a scrappy one for sure, but the Rams, they started this one out a little earlier, and they're gonna be the ones to finish it.
Oh, I just see damaging prune on that Bastion as well. Relatively interesting counter to Thumps, who's also on the Bastion as well, but it's been working out for them. Bastion being a very interesting hero indeed. If you can stay alive, you can do a lot of damage, but that HP depletes almost like my bank account. So, yeah.
To see some good financial management from both sides, and you know, in this way, the ultimate economy is like our bank accounts. And South River, they're certainly making some heavy withdrawals on their end, and they're hoping it's going to pay off, as of now it is, because Bam Bam gets in the spot that they want to be in, comes up with two. Getting aggressive has to wraith out, but the threat isn't what matters. It's that payload that's inching closer and closer to final completion. Zambali's Monastery, a map notoriously known to be difficult to attack. Here we are at a full completion with over 2 minutes on the clock. What about today?
Wow. 3 to 20, basically 2 minutes 22:19. The confidence here for the Rams is definitely going to be high. The Sparkplugs, they need to play a perfect game. They need to win this out to stay in it, to take us to Nepal, to take us to that fifth map. The first teams actually to take us to the fifth map if they do here today. But it is a hard fought battle. You have to play up against the Rams. And you mentioned something earlier that it's difficult for attack to win out here. So we'll see. They're going up against one of the best teams. Nothing can be said just yet. We'll have to look at the picks to really solidify our opinions, and we get to see them.
I mean, we're looking at the defense here. That's the one thing that is for certain. We got a Sim, we got a Bastion. See, both of them, they're very high damage. We're looking at South River Rams. They're looking to make these fights quick, make them snappy, especially with Gumbro and Super Sloth on the Kiriko and Lucio respectively, to help control that pace. And I think that's one of the main difference we haven't touched on too much, has been these support comps, whereas we're seeing more of these heavy, high burst healing supports from Speedway, such as the Ana Bap, whereas the Lucio Kiriko from South River, they're the good part of the reason they were able to speed run that last map, and we're gonna have to see how is that going to play out here as the gates open for the Speedway's attack?
Stop the payload, says the announcer, and that is exactly what the Rams are going to try and do here. They mirror it with another Reinhardt as well, just to stall them out as much as possible. I won't be surprised. There's the May wall to isolate some of their team and give them some space to push up.
Maywall is really Thumps is the win condition essentially for Speedway, but they're getting beaten back up kind of quickly. The longer these go, the better it is for the Sparkplugs. They have that sustain greater long term. However, the Sim Bastion is just so much for them to handle. You can see those resources, they're crumbling before their eyes, and eventually they have to back off, take a little bit of breather, get everyone back up to full health, but actually Gunbro going down here, that could mean the resurgence of Speedway, because you put a Mercy Pocket on a Sneaky Turtle, I guarantee you, they're gonna do something.
And that's with 2 players down. They need to come back and help. Damaging Prune really close to that ultimate as well. But that being said, both Bam Bam and Damaging Prune, as much of a thorn they are in the side of the Rams, in the side of the Sparkplugs, it's still going to be difficult for them to find, like, I mean, when you're going up against a team that's consistently breaking your utility and depletes your health, like, it's disposable. It's really difficult.
It is, and you know, that's why you got things like Sound Barrier to keep that extra shield health available. Moving around the side to avoid the Deadeye. Damaging Prune met with Bam and Hammer. Don't like to see that in Overwatch 1 or Overwatch 2 as Speedway, they're putting this payload forwards at a record time. We're gonna get that first point, and that snowball certainly rolling.
They get the ball rolling, they get the wall rolling, but at this time, it seems as though the Sparkplugs are not taking a lot of that positioning right off the bat. They're not pushing forward here. They're respecting the Rams and their play style. They have 4 minutes on the clock, so they're still sitting pretty as they push this payload forward. But again, it might be difficult for them because they're not taking that space.
No, eventually they will decide to solidify themselves more at the top of this final hill, which is a very good spot to be, especially knowing you have this photon barrier to give you a further advantage. With the fight, it's very much an open space. To be brawling in, you rely a lot on those Reinhardt shields, but if you got a giant 4,000 HP shield, that's always great to work with. The Blizzard 2 completely negated by the Suzu. I mean, that's a lot of trade outs for not a whole lot of action in the kill feed. I bet that's about to change with an Earth Shatter. That was Fish Bull sends it into the back line. Classic Fish things happening here. And yep, that's going to be that defensive stop that Speedway, no defensive stop, because Speedway have got the ball rolling and going to continue to do so.
That's surprising. We saw the Rams push up on even ground and do such a good amount of damage, but the Sparkplugs instead counter that by staying with the payload and pushing it forward. The aggression from Fish, he knows exactly when to push in and when to push off. When they're coming in, he's coming in hot. When they're pulling away, he is respecting it and giving them some space, because he knows that when he is there, he's gonna do some damage.
Oh, Fish always do damage. Sneaky Turtle wants to do damage, but Dragon Strike forces that much earlier than they expected. Overall, it's going to be an even trade. And the payload's still going to be moving 4.5 minutes on the clock for third point. Utterly ridiculous. Sparkplug, they're not only going to max this time bank, they're looking to surpass it moving through, but South River, it appears they might actually find the ability to swing this around into their favor, sending Speedway straight back to, like, your spawns aren't that way. I hope they understand that, and they're just kind of sitting ducks, quite literally, over in the corner.
Sitting ducks. What an amazing pun there. Classy Duck is getting ready to take this fight and protect their team. They need to push through the archway. They need to push through that choke to get the payload. Damaging Prune finds one. Welcome to
Hanzo RNG! Okay, Damaging Prune. I remember why I don't like this hero anymore. Because it just hits random headshots and it completely wins the fight off of that.
I thought that was a team wipe, but Thumps is already back in it and alive. And that is going to be a stall of the payload. They need to push through this. 3 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. They at least need to get it. They at least hope to get it in 2 minutes, right? You want to be on an even playing field with the enemy team, especially when you're going to be going into that reset.
Oh, yeah. It was even until it wasn't even. Now it's flipped over into Speedway's favor and make it even more so as Fish does another one of their classic pin moves.
Oh, yeah.
They keep on rolling. South River Rams, they either got to get out or they got to reset, because right now they're giving up so much time and space.
Oh my God. Fish is playing darts over here.
Ah!
He's just able to get every single pin that they need. Shatter's already online for them.
Shatters and quite literally everything else for Speedway. It's gonna be that Deadeye on point. Look at them all bunkered up in that corner. And it will actually get Classy Ducky to win up to meet Fish. And oh, that's a critical error that they're gonna be feeling tomorrow morning, because now the Earth Shatter is free to raid. And this is gonna be Speedway looking for that full completion, getting it, and with a faster time than their opponents.
So they get that extra 15 seconds, a slight boost up against the Rams. The Sparkplugs, I can see why they started on defense. You mentioned it right as we got into the map, and we mentioned it again, the advantage that they have just by a touch might win it out for them. Very closely might, perhaps. My synonyms and my words stumbling upon myself as I see the glory of both of these teams. It's going to be, it is a fight, right? This is why we have this as, like, you know, in this position. One team is going to be up by 2, the other team is going to be up by 1. One team to win it all, one team to stay in it and finish it out, cap it, and move forward.
I think the one thing here to consider is South River, they had a rather slow start to their map. It took them the majority of the time, the 4-minute time bank, to get that first point. Now you got that. So getting as much as possible off of this next push is gonna be huge. And I think they figured some things out from the previous rounds. And even making a couple swaps along the way. They're putting Super Sloth onto the Mercy of all heroes, which puzzles me slightly, but then that makes me think, all right, they gotta be empowering Damage and Prune here, help Classy Ducky win that maintained battle that they've been struggling with a little bit throughout this series, and that can seriously help.
Hopefully to keep Damaging Prune alive. Like I was saying, Bastion has a really big problem where if you're not pocketed by someone, or at least not playing further back, you have some issues with that damage. Let's see how it plays out here.
Battle around this first corner. All the cooldowns burst out. That's what you need. Get that damage boost onto the Bastion, and they absolutely shred through the opposition. That's going to be the way this fight goes. Fish hits a light post. They're not going to be getting out anytime soon. I mean, they will. I will be with a first-class ticket straight back to the spawn room. As South of the Rams, they completely proved me wrong and said, know what? We're going to set the pace this time around.
Oh, you missed the dartboard by just a little bit there, Fish. I know that you're trying to get that full score. I mean, I'm not a darts caster. I'm a Overwatch caster, so I don't know exactly what the win is there, but I know that you kind of missed the mark there. The pin's not on point just yet. Classy Duck doing an amazing job countering the Ryan with the aggression that they need to get them onto the second point.
And that's great, because for the first time, Classy Ducky has beat Fish to an Earth Shatter, and that can come up big. The aggressive pin to the back, though, is going to essentially even that up. Bastion ultimate, they're going to try to clear the battlefield. Not going to do too much on that regard, but that Earth Shatter certainly will. Classy Ducky going back in, but doesn't do the job that they need, because Fish has said, you know what, I will be the superior Reinhardt this game, and just put their foot down.
Oh man, they really want to take us to this game 5, and I respect that. That is going to be about 20 seconds left on the clock. Their ultimates online for both sides, but two support ultimates online, the Valkyrie and the Nano. Really good for that sustain up against a Kitsune Rush and an Earth Shatter.
The Kitsune Rush was blocked too. You're not even gonna have it in the fight. What a play from Thumbs to prevent that from happening. The Fury will be the reason we're gonna see this ended. Even the Nano and the Mercy. You can care less about that, because everything that South River had planned going into that fight just went down in flames, and this is where it will be. It might not seem like that forward, but this is actually a pretty attainable goal on a defense.
I would agree, it is attainable, but especially with how worn down both these teams are, they're a bit tired, they're a bit on the back burner. They just played through 3 different maps and had a hard-fought battle on each of them. It wouldn't be surprising if either side could take it, especially with how close the previous games were. That being said, I keep stating it, sound like a broken record. Speedway, they've done so well. I am a true believer in the underdogs. I think that they can do it. They only have 100 meters to get to. 100 meters and they can win out. 100.6 meters to be exact, to the dot, to the T, to win things out against the South River Rams, to prove themselves once and for all, to get us to that map 5. And if they lose in the map 5, they at least have proven themselves that they are worthy of being in at least the top 3. They are going to do an amazing job here.
And they have to. It's their last shot. If they want to push this one to a map 5, that'd be stellar. On the attack, and you know what? It could just go their way. There's quite a few swaps that actually came through for South River. We're on the Ramakra now, where Classy Ducky has found some success within the past, but that also leaves Fish with a lot more room to work, can be a lot more aggressive as they would really prefer in their playstyle. However, that DPS line could really throw them for a wrench. As the payload will get closer, so will these teams to actually get that first meeting point. Just look at the damage Classy Ducky is taking early on into this engagement. Now having to face the fury of a pocketed Pharmacy in the sky too. This is just something that South River, they're not going to be able to adapt to. They lose this first corner, and you know it's been like poking. That's how this point goes until somebody finds that opening to work with, and so far it's really been nobody. Classy Ducky is gonna get pinned in the back. Nice Suzu to keep him up, but still low on health, just trying to heal. The payload will round that first corner as the poke is just gonna continue. Eventually that final blow will be dealt because Fish does what they do best. I say that so many times, but because Fish just swims. There's bigger fish to fry, not for this guy. This guy is the biggest fish in that pond, pushing it through.
Thumps near the end there, just what the doctor ordered to finish things off. The darts are landing exactly. It hit a bullseye there, Fish, and there is going to be that barrage almost on line. There we go. We see it, and they're probably, they're most likely going to pop it here so they could just control that space on point, win out, and call it a day. Take us to map 3, or map 5.
And you might as well say that, and it's looking like it could just be the case. That barrage still in the back pocket, and a nano boost as well. Classy Ducky is the Annihilation, the only thing really remaining to turn it around, but Annihilation is such a good ultimate. You got a Kiriko to keep you up. This could very well be it, because Classy Ducky is doing what's necessary. Look at that, Bevel sucks. We're not done with Shambhala's Monastery just yet.
Oh my gosh, they keep themselves alive, push the payload off. There's a sound barrier near the end to keep them there, but because of that, they don't have their ultimates for the South River Rams. They don't have those ultimates into this fight. Fish close to the Shatter. Same thing with the Mercy. They have that Valkyrie almost online, almost as what I say, because it's very, very close, but if it does get online for this final team fight, it might win out.
You're gonna have it up, but there's that Kitsune Rush. It makes it so much easier to take the fire out of the sky, so it's on Fish to turn it around. Gets one, gets two, both supports are gone. The Fish themselves gets them in the mix, and we are headed to a map number 5.
Nepal. What a beautiful map it is indeed, and what a beautiful play we get to see here coming out of Classy Ducky. My words, fumbling myself from the beauty that this play brings. A tear to my eye. Using that Annihilation really, it brought them back into the game momentarily, and that is sometimes the switch of momentum that you need. Unfortunately though, it was the Speedway High School Sparkplugs who were able to win out. I don't even know if unfortunately is the right word there, because we are going to a map 5, the hypest, most interesting map to see to this day. I mean, this is the first time I've gotten to a map 5 in a series, so I'm really excited.
I think we've both fallen victim to a lot of 3 Overwatch lately.
Yeah.
So, we're seeing where that's kind of gonna go from here. We get a map 5. I'm so excited. But looking forwards into Nepal, you kind of want to think about what is gonna be good here. Is it gonna be that Reinhardt to brawl it out as Nepal usually goes? And you could argue that, hey, there's a Fish on the side of Speedway, and so far has been the dominating force in terms of the tank markup, and I'm not surprised to see that going. But before we get to that final map, we're gonna let that hype ruminate a little bit longer as we're gonna head to an intermission. Prepare for that last map. is time for map number 5 in the EGFH matchup. And man, nerds, we could not have asked for this to go any further. This is the hype we were looking for in the high school Overwatch scene.
I'm excited to see it. Nepal, fairly popular map, and it is a control as well. So from the maps that we saw before, from the chaos that we saw before, I would not be surprised if we see some comfort picks from some of these players, especially with Fish on that Reinhardt. Even though, I mean, generally speaking, like, you want to play what, like, meta and all that stuff, but when you have a comfort pick and you're really, really good at it, especially if it's Ryan, I don't think that that's that bad, especially as the main tank.
Nope, not at all. This is honestly where you would like to find yourselves if you're Speedway right now. Keep Fish on that Reinhardt and hope that you do not have to play Sanctum. Both of those scenarios would be absolutely great for them.
Oh, man.
So, Nepal is just to be expected. Honestly, I'd put them up higher in the standings here, not to even mention what's at stake. If the third place team is able to take down the first place team right now, that not only does that push Speedway up in the standings, but it also says that they are a serious title contender as the season is starting to come to a close.
I mean, if they don't get if they can get higher up in the standings, at least they can win in map differential. There's a lot of other things that can play into that. That being said, we're gonna see which map we get to see early on. Personally, I mean, like you said, you hope that they don't get to play Sanctum. I would agree. I mean, Sanctum is one of those maps that people are 50-50 on.
Sanctum's just one, you got a giant pit, you're not clashing face to face, but this is the one that you wanted in your Speedway, right? You wanted to go on Village, so you can run the Symmetra, run the Reinhardt, and this is their playing ground, and you can see that South River Rams, they're not as confident. They're going to go for that Orisa instead. I mean,
you got to be comfortable and confident in your picks, and if Orisa is what that takes, then that's what you got to play.
Have the Orisa and actually swap off the Symmetra, so there's no speed really from either side, but the damage is certainly there from Speedway. They're going to walk themselves right up, not even taking the point with the Symmetra like you would typically expect, but controlling that high ground is just what they needed. They kept up the rotation because Sneaky Turtle is just hitting these shots on the Cassidy. Couldn't ask for any more. Double tap the Bam Bam. Oof, you'll be feeling that one in the morning. As Speedway want to get themselves on the point, just need to actually be on the point. There we go. We actually got it.
There we go. And now it's going to be a slow and steady push to victory for the Sparkplugs, the underdogs in this series trying to win out. And with that Deadeye online, that zoning is going to be so good. They're going to be able to push them out of position and keep them further back.
Oh yeah, Sneaky Turtle built this up so quickly. It's actually kind of insane how well they've been able to do that. But you're kind of just chilling at the choke.
Oh?
You got the Cassidy off on the side. Kind of vibing. So what do you do now? You just kind of hold it out. There's a couple extra percentage points, and you go back to clicking heads. That's how Cassidy works with the ultimate. Rams, though, they have managed to build up this Kitsune rush. That's going to be the thing to pave the way towards that objective. But Bam Bam isn't there to see the light of day. And not having that Reaper, that ultimate's essentially going to go to waste, and Speedway, they're going to remain in control.
That's such a good job of holding that archway, holding that point, not allowing them to push in or get any ground. They are not, I mean, in some situations, you'll see teams push really, really far up. They're not even worried about that. They don't need to push far up when they are just chilling over here. They're covering their back. They're covering the sidelines as they also keep a watchful eye on this choke. As long as they can keep it, which I won't be surprised if they can give themselves a huge lead here for the Sparkplugs for the Speedway High team.
They've got it locked down. They're playing as a unit, whereas South River either scrambling to make something happen. They're playing so split. You got Bam Bam on one side, Super Sloth in the sky, who's not going to be in the sky much longer, and Damage Improved on the point, trying to make something happen, but you just simply can't. That's not how it ends up working. 88% now. We are in that last fight territory. I think it might be the first elimination that's going the way of South River all game. Add on to a second. They want to at least get something on the objective. Nice resurrection on the Pebble Socks with that nano. Could prove to be devastating, especially as this Mercy's flying around, keeping everybody alive. But there you go. All the ultimates being dumped into this fight, knowing that it could very well be the last hit. Save them towards the next round. And it's a heavy commitment from Speedway. Well, they think they can win it. They're going, it's winnable. Certainly is, because Fish is in there with the nano boost, and that is is gonna be it. South River, they had their chance, but Speedway put it all down with a 100-0 shutout on Village.
Wow. That was a great barrier as well coming out. Photon barrier being able to position them along with the pin, the Terra Surge not working. All these names, all these things, but it doesn't even matter as the Sparkplugs are gonna take the first point. And we don't get to see Sanctum.
And that's actually pretty. Yeah, this is not Sanctum. You're correct. Don't worry about it.
I was
You
like,
got
wait.
It's
I
right.
got scared. Oh.
I made you doubt yourself. I'm sorry. You are right. It's not Sanctum. It's not Sanctum. It is a lovely shrine.
Shrine. I see the elephants. Oh, I love him. The elephant. He's very, very cute. I mean, they were an entire game. The Rams were hemorrhaging a lot of space. They were losing their they were getting eliminated. They were losing their lives. They were losing the spacing. They were losing in everything. They were on the back burner. But if the Rams are pushed into a corner, they get their horns out. They're ready to push. They're ready to fight. So let's see how they do this, especially with Classy Duck switching to the Sigma.
You know, I'm not a big fan of the Sigma here. Not with this comp. You just want to see the Reinhardt because look at this. The Sigma just gets walked on. Classy Ducky is so low. It's amazing they've stayed alive as long as they have. Look at that pressure though. Like Fish can just basically walk forwards for free. And that's why you don't want to run the Sigma. Once a team's set up, you don't push in. You just poke and prod and hope eventually something goes your way. Not going to be the case.
A Swift steps out of there. I love seeing Sneaky Turtle peek out and find the Kiriko out of position, but the Swift step goes into their favor. It's going to be ticking down the timer. A 2-0 hopefully. They do not want to go to Sanctum here, and this is the power of having the Mercy. Rez goes out. They don't want to go to that, you know, that third final control. They just want to win things out here, call it a day. Sparkplugs end it off on a bang.
Yeah, quite literally. Making things go bang. I mean, they did a deja vu though, because look at Sneaky Turtles. Got this Deadeye already, and damage improved down in their own name. I don't even need the Deadeye to be completely honest with you, because he got the Reinhardt holding down the front. So actually, yeah, that'll leave the flank wide open. Look at the space Fish is gonna be able to take. Completely assassinating Bam Bam in the back. Another shatter. We're already up to 50% nerds, and I have seen nothing but Speedway.
And it's just going chaotic. Like, it's just chaos. They're up to 50, almost 60% here. They're doing a really good job. The switch from Classy Duck has not come out yet, and I think that that's going to work out. I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think that ultimate, that gravitic flux, might help them out in a sticky situation. I think it's definitely difficult with the utility that he provides, but I think that ultimate might give them some room to work with. I say might because he's got to use it in the right positioning to make it really effective.
You can totally jump on that train, but you're also not good at blocking Earth Shatters or denying anything from the Sparkplugs. They just went straight in there, and we're back to that last fight territory with really only gravitic flux to work with.
And I mean, the entire story has been with the plugs on the back burner, the Sparkplugs. Speedway High, they were the ones who were down so far, but with literally 99 seconds left, they don't even touch the point. It's just going to be a 100-0 victory. Wow. I mean, no time to analyze, just time to play, right?
You wanted to make a statement. I mean, Speedway, they're like, no, we are the better team here. We will take down that first place spot, and that's exactly what they did with a complete shutout on Nepal. That is not an easy thing to accomplish whatsoever. And, you know, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Fish is a huge part of why this game went the way of the Sparkplugs. Having such a player with a great understanding of a main tank, especially one that is in such a great spot at the current meta of Overwatch, you're forcing Speedway. You made him switch to the Ramatra. You made him switch to the Sigma, the Orisa. None of those were able to work out. Sometimes they understood the Reinhardt wasn't the play, but South River, they were playing Speedway's game those last two maps there, and it really began to show through. So, Speedway, congratulations on a 5-map victory. I'm so glad that we were able to get this one on broadcast today.
I'm glad indeed. The entire story, they were on the back burner there on that third map. I mean, the first one they lost, they managed to balance things out. Then they lost again, and they were on the back burner. They evened things out near the end, and then they finally capped things off on control. They lost control for the first time, but they're able to win it out near the end. Maybe it's just a map difference right there. But that being said, both these teams played amazing. I would hope that we can get an interview. I mean, we'll see if we can. I would love to talk to Speedway. I think that we can definitely learn from them, learn how to play, especially in push situations. Even though they lost in that push, losses could be very educational indeed. And I really have some interesting thoughts to ask them there. So we'll have to see just a little bit if we could get an interview. And when we do, we'll be back to tell you if we can.
And hello once again, and for the last time, Tiny Shiny and Nerds are here to wrap up this exciting series we've had today. And you know what? We're actually not alone this time. We have Sneaky Turtle in the booth with us, fresh off of a stellar victory. How are you feeling after this one?
I'm feeling great. It was a really intense match. It was a nail biter.
Yeah.
We're certainly
Well,
glad.
I was gonna say, well, you could certainly say that you guys. So you've played a lot of the DPS role, and you played a decent amount of Cassidy. And I wanted to ask you, how do you know when to use that Deadeye, his ultimate?
Really, I just try and use it to zone out the enemy team, try and create space for my team, and try and help out my teammates. Play slower.
Marks of a good player. Marks of a good player. You know when to use it, know when to have it. And so, just to ask about Push, the map that you guys unfortunately did not win. You were really close to winning, but you slipped up near the end just a touch. If you could run it back, if you could redo it one more time, maybe get resurrected there, how would you play it out? Anything that you would change, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, definitely. We kind of got snowballed there at the end. It was kind of unfortunate. The whole team was kind of getting stressed out, so we really just had to shake that one off and kind of reset from after that. Kind of just not think about the loss.
And reset y'all did, because you came back and took Shambali and then finished it out with a shutdown of a Nepal matchup, which was just amazing to be able to watch. And you know what? It's a pleasure to be able to have you on here today. Do you have anybody else that you'd like to shout out as we get ready to wrap up this interview?
I'd like to shout out the two coaches. They've helped us a lot throughout all of this. It's been great working with them.
We love the coaching staff here. They're the people that make it happen. They're the brains behind the operation. And, I'm kind of jealous that when I was in high school, I didn't get to have the same opportunities you guys
Oh,
to
yeah.
compete on a stage like this. So seeing you all out there now, showcasing your skills and having fun while you do it is always amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today on the channel, and to Sneaky Turtle for the interview. We still have some more EGFC action going on the official EGF channel, so make sure that you head over there to stay tuned for that. But for now, that's all we have offered today. We wish the rest of you a great rest of your evening.
Peace.